Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes serious and aggressive in Academy Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. 8-year-old Uzumaki Nara had no idea what was going on. She unlocked her chakra thanks to the instructions of the voice in her head, though she prefers to be called mother for some reason, and everything went black for a moment. Now she doesn't know exactly what happens to others when they manage to get their chakra unlocked, but they probably don't get floating blue boxes with messages in them. Would you like to enable tutorial messages? Yes/no. Kao-chan, what's a tutorial? Little Nara asks the ever-dependent source of knowledge inside of her, her scarlet eyes staring cautiously at the floating box in front of her. Where her two siblings got whisker marks due to the Kyuubi's chakra having an influence on them in the womb, Nara got her badass red eyes that made her glares and stares a lot more intimidating. Which is a lot better than having a bunch of sensitive lines on your face if you ask her. Fufufu. A tutorial helps you by teaching you all you need to know about certain subjects. So if you press yes, those boxes will explain a lot about your chakra and other important things. The motherly voice explains to Naru in an amused tone. The little girl lets out a silent ah and presses the yes button, not even wondering how she can touch the floating light thingy in front of her. The box disappears and suddenly gets replaced with a bigger one, this one having only a few words and some numbers on them. Uzumaki Yasha Naruko LV 1. HP 100/100. Chakra 600/600. XP 0/200. Strength 2+. Perception 6+. Endurance 7+. Charisma 3+. Intelligence 4+. Agility 8+. Luck 5+. Remaining points 10. And once again our little protagonist was stupefied. She had no idea as to what almost all of those words meant. Weren't there supposed to be more of those funny boxes to explain what was going on? Just as Nara was about to start ranting about how this was probably a joke, another box appears, a yellow one, she notices, with a lot of words in them. After some gentle prodding from the mother voice, she starts reading, grumbling about there being too much words. Welcome to your stats page. Right now it's a bit bare and there's not a lot of interesting things on it, but don't worry, the more you discover and do, the more filled this page will get. But we will get to that when you unlock the other segments. For now we will talk about what makes you, well, you. Each one of these 7 attributes will play a major part in what skills will be available for you to learn. We could go on and on about each attribute and what it can do, but instead we will give you this nifty little rhyme that shall teach you everything you need to know to become your personal brand of special. S is for strength, and that means I am strong. I can carry lots of toys and swing stuff all day long. P is for perception, a long funny word. It means what I tasted, smell, saw and heard. E is for endurance, and that's how long I can play. I'm always really healthy, and have energy all day. C is for charisma, it's why people think I'm great. I make my friends all laugh and smile, and never want to hate. I is for intelligence, it means I'm really smart. I use my brain for lots of stuff, like science, math and art. A is for agility, that's how I get around. I move real fast and easy, and I never make a sound. L is for luck, and it's simple, you see. It means that good things always happen to me. Your stats can be increased in 2 ways, by investing stat points in them that you earn throughout the game, or through old-fashioned exercise. Be careful though, as the more points you get through training, the harder you have to train to get the next point. A basic rule for gaining stat points each level is INT/20, with a basic amount of getting 1 point each level. Now that she could understand, Nara giggles to herself as she starts thinking. So each stat makes her either faster, stronger, smarter, etc. Hey, she just used a big word, and they help her decide in what she could do. And she has 10 more points to make those stats even better. But where should she put them? If she put them in strength, then she can punch Kiba way harder when he annoys her again. But if she puts her points in intelligence, then she could get smarter than that know-it-all Sakura. Decisions. I'd put at least a few in strength if I were you. That makes sense. But how much should she put in there? Put 3 in it, that would bring it up to average. And you would be able to punch that Kiba boy harder. Nara was not going to argue with that, so 3 points in strength it is. There are still 7 left though. What else could she need? Bring perception up to 10 points. That way it will be harder for people to sneak up on you. Something tells me you're gonna need it. True, it would be harder to sneak up on her if she knows what's going on around her. Only 3 points left now, and she'll put them in intelligence. She doesn't want to end up as stupid as some of those annoying kids in her class. The idiots are the ones who get themselves killed first usually. Not a bad choice, shorty. I'm not short, you stupid old Hanera shouts while whirling around in self-proclaimed righteous fury, only to stop confused as she finally notices the person behind her. She has purple hair tied in a spiky ponytail and brown eyes without pupils. Her attire of a short skirt, fishnet shirt, and open trench coat do nothing to hide her curvaceous figure. Though what annoys Nara the most is the cheeky grin on the woman's face. Now, if she would know about Mitarashi Anko's reputation, she might have picked her next words more carefully, but most likely not. Who are you and why are you reading my mind? Nara questions Anko with quite an impressive glare for someone her age. Still, she only looks adorable to the second best interrogator at the TNI department. Only suicidal idiots claim they're better than Marino Ibiki. I didn't read your mind, brat. You were talking to yourself about how you were going to put those two other little punks in their place. Though Anko had to admit being able to read minds would make her job a lot easier. Why oh why couldn't she have been born a Yamanaka? Meanwhile, Nara didn't quite believe the weird lady and decided to ask a more trustworthy source. Ka-chan, was I thinking out loud the entire time again? The girl asks, silently this time, her mommy. All she receives is a feeling of amusement and a gentle prodding against her head, as if something were poking it. You were Nara-chan. Didn't I tell you to be more careful while thinking? You're lucky your motor mouth didn't bring you in trouble this time. The voice gently admonishes her, mirth obviously laced in her voice. Nara simply shrugs and presses the OK button, her status screen now updating with the new numbers. Uzumaki Yasha Naruko LV, 1, HP 100/100, Chakra, 750/750, XP, 0/200, Strength 5, Perception 10, Endurance 7, Charisma 3, Intelligence 7, Agility 8, Luck 5. Would you like to activate the Wild Nations perk? This will turn otherwise serious encounters into zany, wacky moments that will make you giggle with mirth. Not for those serious of heart. Warning, the choice you make now cannot be reverted. Yes/no. Before either Anko or the Ka-chan voice could give the impulsive girl the advice to really think things through, she already rammed the yes button with gusto. She's seen how boring and stuffy the serious people are the entire time. She doesn't want her life to end up like that. While happily ignoring the sighs of both women, Nara suddenly sees a tab called Perks next to the word Stats in the upper corner. Seeing a yellow arrow flash at it, she presses it. The yellow box explained everything, so the yellow arrow should point to the next yellow box, right? And while Nara tried to wait patiently for the next tutorial message to pop up, she decided to read what perks she had. Perks. Dark girl, the shadows are your friend and you know it. Your natural affinity for stealth gives you a bonus of +3 agility, and all skills involving sneakiness and trap making will be learned at 150% speed. Rank 1 of 3. Flexible body. You may not be the strongest, but you sure are the one who can move and bend the easiest. Your agility increases at a speed of 250%. Your strength increases at a speed of 60% though. Lesser precognition. Trust your gut and it'll take care of you. You have the chance to predict when something bad happens or when powerful enemies are nearby due to your instincts. In battle you can slightly read the enemy's attack before it happens. You gain a bonus of +2 perception, rank 1 of 5. Transmigration. This is not your first life that you're living. Who knows what deeds you did when you were someone else? Random flashes of your previous life will be shown to you in dreams, and who knows, you might learn something new. Uzumaki Chakra. Your chakra reserves are increased by 500%. Your chakra is denser as well, decreasing jutsu costs with 10% and can be used in all kinds of unique ways. Skill level necessary to properly control C-rank jutsu and lower is increased by 300%. Uzumaki Luck. You're the best at games, though whether it's through skill or luck nobody knows. When gambling your luck increases with 400%, and sometimes you find treasure in the most random of places. Uzumaki Vitality. You got one hell of a body and the stamina to match it. You get a +4 endurance, and said stat increases at 200% speed. You also recover 30% faster. Wild Nations. I want to believe. With this perk your average daily life will be occasionally flipped on its head with all kinds of situations you wouldn't think of in your wildest dreams. Don't worry. You're not responsible for the others who get caught up in it. Nara couldn't help but childishly pump her fist when the words not responsible were read, not bothered by the fact that Anko is still reading along over her shoulder. Pupilless eyes narrowed at a certain word. Transmigration, huh? Maybe I should ask Tabiki or Inoichi about it when I see them next time. And while Anko was contemplating the possible insanity of the quirky girl before her, said girl was now reading up on those perks. Perks are extra skills and options that will make you more badass when applied. While you already get a few perks due to who you are and what you are good at, more perks can be unlocked through certain situations or even through completely random events. Although there are a few like the Wild Nations perk that are completely optional and may or may not influence your experience either way. Nara had to think hard for a while, not really getting it, at least until her brain made a more simple equation out of it. More perks equals more awesomeness. Yes, Nara could definitely live with that, she thought as she nodded her head sagely. Now that she has most explanations over with, it's time to start training to become a kick-ass ninja. Anko, seeing determined flames appearing in the little squirt's head, decided to have a bit of fun. So Squirt, now that you have your chakra unlocked, what are you going to do? The older female asks. I'm gonna train, of course, you crazy stalker. The little girl bluntly states, not noticing the twitch in Anko's eyes as she contemplates whether the Ka-chan voice will keep helping her with her training. She doesn't really like that Naru is training to be a ninja after all. Of course I'll help Naru-chan. I'll make you strong enough so that you can always get back home safely. Naru simply let a smile slip on her face. If Ka-chan is there to guide her, everything will be fine. So how are you going to train, you shitty brat? Anko asks with a deceptively sweet voice and an equally sweet smile. At this Nara paused. Out of touch with the world she may slightly be, but even she knows that by answering the Ka-chan in my head will help me. They'll lock her up and take Ka-chan away from her. So, she'll settle on the second best thing. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups and 100 squats along with running 10 kilometers every single day. She says with a proud look on her face, chest and arms both puffed and poised in a heroic pose, sparkles surrounding her upper body. Now there are a lot of people who can quite impressively keep a straight face in most of the situations. One can even say it's needed when working in the TNI department. That said, seeing an 8-year-old say the most moronic things while sparkling on proudly is probably a breaking point most won't even encounter in their mundane lives. Enko, though, found out that a situation such as this is one of her breaking points, as shown by her manic rolling on the ground while laughing. Shut up, you shitty stalker hag. If it works for Saitama, then it'll work for me as well. Obviously that just kept the stalker high. I mean the lovely Mitarashi Enko, sexy queen of all dango, going with even harder laughter. After the Tokubetsu Jonin calmed herself down, she looked at the now sulking girl. Taking a bit of pity on the little squirt, Enko decided to do her possible nice-ish deed of the week. You know, brat, if you want I can help you out with your training when I'm not too busy. We can even start right now. She tags on the second part when the little blonde obviously looks interested at her. Said little blonde looks at the older purplenet with stars in her eyes, for all intent looking like a happy red-eyed puppy. It almost makes her think she should feel guilty at the next part. What are we gonna do for training an ego? Nero asks Enko excitedly. Finally she'll get to train as a ninja, just like Mito and Hiruzen. Lost in her daydreams about kicking both of their asses and being hailed as the most awesome ninja ever seen in Konoha, she doesn't want to be Hokage anymore after seeing Daddy getting stuck in an avalanche of paperwork. Our little ninja in training didn't notice the hand signs Enko made after bloodying her thumb. The cloud smoke erupting from the woman's technique soon blew away by a sudden gale that disappeared when the smoke was gone as well. Beside Enko stood now a huge snake, at least 20 feet long and 3 feet wide. Now, seeing as how awesome I am at teaching, I found a way to incorporate two important aspects of ninja training together, namely dodging and physical training. So we're gonna play dodge the snake, the woman said gleefully, as the snake lunged at the girl. Not as fast as he possibly could, of course. The little hatchling still needs to grow before they can actually start playing for real. Though Nera didn't know that and started running as fast as she could, barely dodging most of the lunges and strikes. That day, Kanahigaku heard for the first time one of the two shouts that would soon become commonplace to hear. Damn you, woman! Fancy interval wanted for this position. Will pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies. A gruesome 38 minutes and 23 seconds later, as timed by one of the nifty blue boxes, a very tired Nera lays down on the ground, panting as the adrenaline of being chased by a giant snake is wearing off. The woman that brought forth said snake was mildly impressed at how long one of her favorite summons was outrun by a brat without training, even if he held back a lot. The summon, Migu, looked at the tiny hatchling that had some potential and decided that it could use some water. Grabbing one of its soft, squishy legs with his tail, Mutsu brought said now squirming little one to a nearby river, shooting reprimanding looks each time it squirmed too hard in his opinion. At seeing the fresh water source, the little hatchling looked sheepishly at the large body of water and back at Mutsu. Oh, thanks for bringing me here. How did you know I could use a drink? Migu couldn't help but raise the scales that passed as an eyebrow. A human hatchling with actual manners? The snake summons don't meet one of those a lot. Mostly because almost every hatchling either screams or begs for their life the moment they meet someone of the Hebe summoning clan. Oh, woe be to those who are scarily strong. You are welcome, little hatchling. With the amount of fluids that you seem to be losing from your tiny body, I thought it prudent that you should replace those quickly if you want to function properly. Mutsu hissed at the young and now slippery hatchling. Nera looked at the huge snake in awe. That's so cool. You can speak, come to think of it, what do we call the language we all speak? The little blonde pondered before shrugging and dunking her head into the river, eagerly gulping in the water while enjoying the cold anchoring into her face. Pulling back up and shaking her shoulder-length blonde hair dry like a dog, she notices Migu and Enko looking at her with matching predatory gleams in their eyes. Congratulations, Squirt, we've decided that we're going to take you under our wing and train you. The crazy woman from hell says cheerily. Nair wants to say something mean or tell them to buzz off, but both actually took time to help her out in their own way. But should she accept? While pondering the answer to that, her attention got pulled towards a blinking green square in the upper right corner of her vision. Mentally wondering what it is, it springs open with an accompanying yellow box. This is the notices page, where all kinds of important information will be collected for you in messages. To open it, just either say the name of the page out loud or think about making it appear. Nodding and understanding, Nera makes the little yellow box disappear and decides to check her messages first, still thinking about what she should pick. Seeing the conflicted and almost wary look on the girl's face, Enko's own look softens up and she decides to sit next to the girl, throwing an arm around her tiny companion's shoulder. You don't have to decide right now, Squirt, but you gotta admit we did have some fun, didn't we? She asks with a smirk. Having little Nera run towards her and use her as a shield for Migu may have been obvious for the Tokubetsu Jonin, but most gloating idiots wouldn't realize the redirecting maneuver until it's too late. That, and she noticed Neru smiling every time she pulled off something acrobatic. To the older girl's surprise, little Neru just nods and visibly relaxes, taking obvious comfort in the arm around her. Seeing that she won't get anything more out of her possible little Padawan, Anko just decides to look at the messages. Taking the silent cue for what it is, Neru opens the first of 4 messages. Challenge completed. Dodge the snake. Easy difficulty. Silver rank. Bronze. Dodge a snake summon for 15 minutes. Achieved. Silver. Dodge a snake summon for 30 minutes. Achieved. Gold. Dodge a snake summon for 60 minutes. Rewards. Bronze rank achieved. 300 EXP. 10.000 Rio. Silver rank achieved. 500 EXP. 20.000 Rio. Money and items will directly be added to your inventory. Looking happily at the EXP and gained money, little Neru decides to check her inventory later when she's by herself and through all of the other messages. Closing it and opening the second one, both girls start grinning for different reasons. The following stats have increased during your exercise. Endurance, +6, equals 13. Agility, +7, equals 15. Intelligence, +2, equals 9. Now why are both girls grinning, you ask? Well, Neru is happy because she actually improved from being hunted like prey by a big-ass snake, and Anko knows that she now has the perfect way to motivate her student. Not aware of the other's thoughts, the third message pops open after the second one is dismissed as well. Level up, you have reached level March 15th. EXP, 325/350. Available stat points, 2. Looking strangely at her current level, Neru pushes the question mark again for what feels the 20th time that day and waits patiently for the new box to arrive. Levels are currently capped by your chosen class. Level caps can be raised by getting a higher rank in said chosen class/profession or other situations and allowed to grow even further. In this case, the level caps for the ninja class are Academy Student 0 to 15, Genin 1540, Chunin 40 to 80, Tokubetsu Jonin 80 to 140, Jonin 80 into infinity and beyond. So I can't level stupidly hard and curb stomp the others? Neru asked in a resigned tone, leaving Anko to wonder just where the hell an 8-year-old girl would learn words like that. Deciding it'd be better for her remaining sanity not to find out, the woman just pats the little one on her back. There, you'll still be able to wreck the little twerps if you train hard enough to raise your stats. Anko says awkwardly, not sure if it'll work. Though she must be doing something right if the sulking red-eyed girl looks up. And you'll help me? She asks in a soft tone, as if afraid of the answer. Anko just nods with a not quite manic as usual smile, causing Neru to grin excitedly and burying herself deeper into the older girl's awesome trench coat. With both now happy about their arrangements, Neru opens the last message for the both of them to read. Midarashi Anko offers you an apprenticeship. Do you accept? Yes/no. That brings the attention of both females back to the question Anko asked her before. And while Neru does want to accept and keep training with her newly christened Inigo, the little blonde can't help but feel as if she would abandon her Kaa-chan. She was the first person Neru asked to be trained by after all. You should accept it, Neru-chan. I can't really help you with training your body. Besides, you may learn all kinds of different things from Anko-san that I don't know. Nodding to both herself and the motherly voice, Neru takes a deep breath and pushes yes. Though she did not expect to be pulled into a hug by her excitable new sensei. Giggling and returning the hug, Neru decides that she kind of likes the hugs Inigo gives her, pretty hard and a tad painful, but yet they carry a hint of caring. But the moment is broken when hopefully the last message of the day pops up. Congratulations, you have become the apprentice of Midarashi Anko. Level cap increased by 6 levels, 1 of 2 apprentice positions filled. The two women stare blankly at the message until Anko breaks the silence. So, wanna go and get some food? Fancy interval wanted for this position. Will pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies. As Anko led her new little duckling towards her favorite dango restaurant, she can't help but feel a slight pang of guilt shoot through her elation. Sure, the woman may be teaching the little blonde how to be a good ninja, and with how shitty the academy can be, little Neru will need it, but the idea from less than noble thoughts. It's not a big secret what happened to Anko thanks to her traitorous sensei, and to this day there are still a few people who treat her as if she's Orochimaru right-hand woman that happily helps him with whatever psychotic experiment the immortal craving snake bastard came up with. Hell, the best she can expect from most people is indifference born from disdain. So, when she finds a little girl glaring at a weird screen made of light and not knowing who she was, the woman couldn't help but pound on the chance of finally getting some decent company if she was lucky. The idea may have been brought forth from loneliness, and the need of having friends who won't associate her with Orochimaru and what he did to her, but in the end both profit from it. Little Neru will have a teacher that'll turn her into a bona fide badass. And as for Anko, well, maybe now her loneliness will be chased away even if only for a little while. It was already nearing 8 when Neru finally got home, the sun starting to set as she opened the gates to the Namikaze residence. While the plan was to just get some dango and sending the little blonde back home in time for dinner, those plans got waylaid when Anko's friends found them at the dango shop with Anko trying to teach Neru how to spit the little sticks hard enough for it to anchor themselves into the wooden support beams of the shop. After about 20 minutes of convincing them that Neru wasn't kidnapped by her new teacher, The three women finally decide to introduce themselves to the very impressionable and lonely-looking girl that hopefully won't become a mini Anko. Still, Naru learned a lot about life as a kunoichi and the kinds of things she could branch out in when she graduated from the academy. What was supposed to be a quick snack to hatch out a decent training plan turned into dinner and story time about what Naru could expect in the academy and beyond. Though all thoughts flew out of her head when she saw an angry Uzumaki Kushina waiting for her at the table together with the Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Uzumaki Naru, where were you all day? Kushina asks in what she believes is righteous parental anger and worry. Training field 8. Naru responds calmly and even disappointed. Minato thinks it strange to himself but doesn't say anything, until he remembered what Kushina promised Naru last week. And why were you at a training field for ninja? You haven't even unlocked your chakra, much less even started training. Kushina shouts fiercely. What if something happened to her eldest daughter there, and she wasn't there to help? You promised we'd go there together today so that I could start training too. You even told me to go ahead and that you would be there soon. Naru responds in subdued tone, drawn into her shell thanks to her biological mother yelling at her. Kushina's face quickly goes from her anger to shock, and from there it morphs into that panicked look you have when you realize that the court hearing that would decide your fate started about 2 hours ago, and you're still in bed. While Kushina tried to comprehend the fact that she forgot the fact that one of her kids was waiting for her in the training grounds while she was training Mito and Hiruzen in the backyard, Naru already went up the stairs into her room. When she closed the door behind her, she let out a sigh and opened the window so she could climb on top of the roof. For some reason, being alone in a high place always soothed little Naru. So this is where you are. Naru hears a familiar voice beside her as she is handed a cup of tea. Flashing her father a grateful smile, she leans into his side and watches the sunset while taking sips from the kocha tea. Minato just smiles, already familiar with some of her daughter's quirks and habits. Besides, it would be a terrible shame to be distracted from such a beautiful scene. That, and the tea just burned his tongue, so talking's a tad more difficult. They stay in pleasant silence, and watch some of the villagers go on their business, as the day retreats to make way for the night when Naru finally asks a question that has been plaguing her mind for some time. Does Mom hate me? The little blonde asks the bigger blonde. Minato just sighs and pulls his eldest, and secretly also his favorite, daughter a bit closer with his free arm. She doesn't hate you, Naru. You know how she was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi before your siblings, right? Feeling rather than seeing his little girl's nod, he continues. Well, it used to be that the identity of the Jinchuriki was being kept secret in Konoha, because most people would confuse the jailer of the Bijou with the beasts themselves. That would lead to the Jinchuriki being ostracized and sometimes even outright abused. This is why your mother's status as one was being kept secret. We managed to make people realize that those holding back the Bijou are heroes and not monsters, but people fear what they don't understand. That's why Kushina always seems to drop everything that she's doing to help the furry twins train. The moment they lose control, they'll go from heroes to possible dangers and maybe even monsters in the public's eyes. Naru couldn't help but snicker at the term both she and Minato coined her siblings with in private. God only knows what Kushina would do to them when she finally finds out. But still, Naru can understand why her mother does her best to keep Mito and Hiruzen safe, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt any less. Naru mumbles the last part out loud. Minato just lets out a resigned sigh and ruffles his little girl's hair. I know, kiddo, but you're taking this surprisingly well. At the rate you're growing up, you'll probably bring home boys in a few years. Minato jokes around, having done this song and dance already a few times. You boys are icky, why would I bring them home? Naru whines and Minato just laughs, content that his sometimes seemingly mature child can still act like her age. Besides, now he has more time to come up with more ways to scare off future suitors both his girls will come home with eventually. Note to self, give Ibiki a raise for his help. And maybe an award if possible. Minato makes a mental note, before turning back to his little sunshine. Fine, no icky boys in the house that don't live here. The yellow flash agrees while ruffling his daughter's hair. Naru tries to swat away his hand without avail, laughing and shrieking as both father and daughter start play wrestling on the rooftop. Ready to give up yet, sunshine? You know you can't beat the Hokage. Minato boasts while tickling Naru's sides. Never, I'll beat you with my awesome chakra attacks. Naru yells back, not really caring about the fact that she hasn't learned how to use her chakra yet. She knew it, her dad knew it, that crystal ball old Hiruzen favored really helps Minato keeping track of Naru, but still he decided to play along. Do you now? Well then, why don't you show me? Minato asks amused, turning his back to the garden and standing on the edge of the rooftop. Naru just huffs, closes her eyes, focusing on the same feeling in her gut that she felt when she unlocked her chakra with Ka-chan's help. Finding that weird place in her tummy that isn't her tummy at all, she grabs the power and instead of just letting it out, she leads it to her arm and imagines it to turn into a ball that she can shoot. Meanwhile, Minato can only gape in surprise as Naru not only rises up to the challenge, but pretty much decides to crush his expectations. Opening her eyes with a grin, Naru grabs her stretched forearm for extra support and fires the ball of condensed chakra, the recoil making her fall on her rear. With a pretty girlish yelp, Minato quickly dodges the assailing ball that makes his danger senses go haywire. Turning around to see what happens, the two on the roof can feel their mouths fall open wide, gaping as the projectile explodes and leaves behind a crater that's a few feet in diameter. The Hokage looks back at his equally shocked daughter, whom is sweating lightly and panting heavily. They just stare at each other, not knowing what to do when a loud and angry voice makes itself known. What the hell was that, Tebane? You know, I just remember I have some urgent paperwork that needs to be done. Need some help, Daddy? The only response Nara receives is being grabbed by the arm and disappearing with a yellow flash. Like hell they were sticking around while Mount Kushina erupted. Fancy interval wanted for this position. Will pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies. You thought I was joking last chapter, didn't you? Right after Nara left for home, Dango stand. So you got yourself an apprentice? Yuhi Kurenai asked in an even and neutral voice that completely clashed with her smoldering glare. Anko just chuckled nervously while rubbing the back of her neck, trying to discreetly request backup through eye contact with her two other friends, Inuzuka Hana and Yuzuki Yugao. Hana just waved her nervously in the universal sign of leave me the fuck out of this while Yugao just smirked and sipped at her tea, planning to enjoy the free show. WL, it's not yet completely official, what with the paperwork I need to file, but yeah I'm gonna train the squirt? Anko more asks and states, feeling like a scolded schoolgirl underneath the Genjutsu mistress gaze. And judging from the whimpers and whining from Hana's Niken, it seems she's not the only one. No, you're not, Kurenai said while closing her eyes, so that she wouldn't have to see the look of betrayal on Anko's face, however brief it may be. Not by yourself at least. Kurenai said the second statement with a weary sigh. The things she does for her crazy friend. Still, she was planning to become a Jounin sensei once she passes the exams, so this might as well be considered a decent exercise. Besides, how hard is training one girl compared to training 3 genin without a second ninja? Come again, please? Hana asked with wide eyes, also having expected a lecture on why it was a bad idea to hand Anko impressionable kids. Sure, the little blonde kid seemed pretty unhurt as far as post-training looks go and basically glowed with the attention Anko gave her, but still it's Mitarashi Anko, the crazy snake bitch and second feared interrogator in the TNI, Kurenai's right Anko. It might be pretty harsh to say, but you don't have any experience in training kids, so it might be prudent to have someone with you who has. Besides, what are you going to do if the kid has talent in something you suck at? Yugao jumps to Kurenai's defense with logical arguments. While Anko visibly deflates, there is still a hint of teasing in her brown eyes. So what you bitches are saying is you're totally jealous that a little girl likes me more than you three. Wheelio, if you guys really have to butt in I'll let you, if only to prove she likes her Inigo more. Anko boasts grandly, obviously liking her new title. Yugao and Kurenai just roll their eyes, willing to let it slide if it means to minimize the risk of Anko permanently maiming/traumatizing the kid. Actually, I think they're more concerned about you accidentally offing one of the Hokage's kids. Hana says in her clan's typical bluntness. Wait, she's what now? Fancy interval wanted for this position. Will pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies. This is actually an ad until we find a decent interval. Meanwhile, back in the Hokage's office. In the same yellow flash that heralded their departure, Minato and Naru appear in the Hokage's office, the usual A and B guards stationed in the room already gone. Well, they and pretty much everybody else except for the ones guarding the important vault with all the forbidden thingies. Easily shrugging off the split-second nausea, Minato looks down at his daughter, checking her over to make sure there aren't any adverse effects from traveling with the Haration. Daddy, is my arm supposed to shake so much? Naru asked curiously, her right hand still holding her tea while her left one is shaking uncontrollably, the small appendage racked with tremors. Minato's eyes widen in panic, the words of that fateful encounter on October 10th racing through his mind. While he is having a flashback about the fateful events that transpired that night, his body reacts automatically, slinging Naru over his shoulder and speeding towards the hospital. His daughter somehow doesn't spill her tea as she keeps sipping it quite happily, even waving at some of the patrolling A and BU as they pass them. When they finally arrived at the Konoha Hospital, the one for ninjas, not to be confused with Konoha Civilian Hospital, or the Konoha TNI Private Clinic for Unfortunate Accidents, Minato simply shunshined into Tsunade's office, the woman frantically hiding her booze while hoping that it isn't Shizen coming over for a surprise inspection. Taking a deep breath to start shouting at the quite idiotic-looking and acting Hokage, the elder medic is stopped by a happy blonde still riding her daddy's shoulder. Hi Bachan, did something awesome with my chakra but my arm won't stop shaking and daddy is freaking out now. The chipper girl says with a smile, putting the now empty cup of tea down on Tsunade's desk. Ignoring the two blondes that are both not really there due to different circumstances, the best medic in town grabs the young girl by the scruff of her shirt and drops her on her desk, hands already glowing green with the diagnostic jutsu. Raising an eyebrow as the results returned, Tsunade decided to just get on with it, treating the situation like ripping of a band-aid. What did you do with your chakra, Naru? She asked resigned. Guided it to my hand and turned into an awesome exploding ball. I see. And how much did you put into it? Lots of it. It turned into a crater about this big. The little girl replies while stretching her arms as wide as possible, obviously proud of her newfound power to blow things up. Shaking her head once again, Tsunade turns back to Minato in the hope that he will be giving more concrete answers. Interpreting the rude gesture as the dismissal it is, Nera finally notices the little notice sign blinking in the upper right corner of her vision. With absent-minded wave of her hand, she materializes the notice board in front of her and opens the first of 2 messages there are. New skill quest, Chakra Blast. Congratulations on creating/discovering your very first technique. Sadly enough, you still lack the control required to properly use it, so the skill is locked away until you have the proper chakra control necessary for it. The skill will be unlocked once your chakra control skill reaches 100. Objective: Chakra control skill reaches 100. Reward skill, Chakra Blast. Would you like to track this quest? Yes/no. Fuming at the audacity, big word number 2 for the day, of the little light boxes at sealing away her new awesome move, Nera growls while thinking about how to see how far she is. Skill screen. Nera says, annoyed, the correct screen popping up due to her surprise. So she just has to say the name of the boxes she wants to see? That's pretty neat. No. Attention back to the heretic boxes who seal away her awesomeness. Skill menu, physical skills, stealth, 0/1000, taijutsu, 0/1000, trap making, 0/1000, chakra skills, chakra blast, locked, requirements not met, rank, DS, chakra control, -10 out of 1000 current rank, E, other skills, precognition, 28 out of 1000 current rank, lesser, huffing once more at having the horrible truth confirmed about her new and mind-blowing skill locked away until she knows how to control her chakra better. Hush, little one, I know all kinds of tricks and exercises to make controlling chakra much easier. You'll be able to blow up your daddy in no time, the Kachan voice says gently, understanding the frustration at having something you worked hard for taken away. Nera visibly calms down in front of the baffled 2 adults who have no idea anymore what the flying fuck is going on. Coughing loudly to catch his daughter's attention, Minato decides to address the metaphorical Akimichi in the room. Neru, what are those screens around you? One long explanation later, the author is in no way gonna type. I see, so the screens more or less work as the video game menus in an RPG. Minato says while observing some of the floating screens, ignoring Tsunade's incredulous stare. You used to play video games? The slug Sanin asks, trying to picture the Hokage staring at a screen at 3 a.m. while furiously mashing buttons, heaps of forgotten paperwork around him. Well, yes. I mean, the academy curriculum was ridiculously easy for me, and seeing as I had a lot of time and not a lot of friends as an orphan, I kinda started playing because I had nothing better to do. Minato admits with a shrug. Like hell he was gonna admit that his 8-year-old self only thought of them as simulators for his future awesome ninja adventures. He may have been a genius prodigy, and still is according, but even he was a snot-nosed brat once. Well, that and playing against Shikaku in RTS games always was a treat, even if he lost a lot quite embarrassingly. There's a good reason the tactical genius is the commander of the regular shinobi forces. Still, they did get horribly off track here, didn't they? Breaking out of his reminiscent haze, the Hokage turns his attention back to Tsunade in the hopes of hearing the diagnostic verdict. So, will my daughter's arm be alright? Minato asks, trying to hide the tension in his voice. Both he and Nera let out a relieved sigh at Tsunade's nod. Yes, the reason her arm was shaking so much was due to the fact that the large amount of chakra force throughout her network caused minor tears into it while the concentrated chakra escaped through it, and saturated the "Are you even listening, you brat?" Tsunade yells angrily at seeing Nera's blank face and glassed-over eyes gazing at her. Sorry, it's just that you started saying way too much stuff that sounds complicated. Can you try saying it in like 20 words or less? The arrogant little girl asks while cleaning her ear out with her pinky. The Sannin takes a deep breath, trying to keep in mind it's only an overly presumptuous 8-year-old girl and not one of her colleagues or the usual adults she works with. You used too much chakra and damaged your chakra network, causing your arm to shake so much. I fixed it, but to be on the safe side, don't use chakra until tomorrow morning, Tsunade says with an overly sweet smile and a huge tick mark on her forehead. Maybe she'd get through this without strangling the goddaughter that obviously inherited the oh-so-feared and hated Uzumaki insanity. Those were 33 words, Bachan. Fuck it, she has 2 spare godchildren anyways. Fancy interval wanted for this position. We'll pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies, and we will keep going until we find one. After Hira shining the fuck out of there in order to escape the second powerful woman Nera pissed off this evening, Minato took her daughter back home so she could go to bed. And if both were being really quiet to avoid Kushina, then they were quiet about it as well. Finally in bed and happy with awesome day she had. Closing her eyes, she let out a final sigh before succumbing to Morpheus only to feel an annoying breeze on her face. Scrunching her nose, the girl sits up sleepily, rubbing her eye tiredly as her mind slowly starts to realize there are a lot of things wrong here. When her eyes finally open up fully, Nera gapes in awe at the landscape in front of her. From the top of the hill she is sitting, she can see a literal sea of grass that reaches her waist, spreading itself as far as the eye can see, with forests, and even a mountain in the distance. Looking down at her feet, she can see some really pretty flowers in all kinds of colors, and they even smell great. While her infantile mind is still trying to catch up that she isn't in bed anymore, her mouth decides to take over. I don't think we're in Hai no Kuni anymore, Tantan. Ufufu, we aren't. Naruchan. Naru can hear a familiar voice talk to her. But instead from inside of her it's now all around her. Ka-chan, where are we? The little blonde asked curiously at the voice not really inside of her head anymore. Just go to the cottage to the right of you, right next to the river. I'll explain everything there. Letting out a huh? Nera looks to her right and indeed there is a river and a house in the distance. With a shrug the girl starts walking while enjoying the weather and the lovely walk through the meadow, curtsying politely with a giggle when she passes a few bunnies. The little fluff balls respond with a polite nod and both go on their way, Nera now happily skipping towards the cottage, humming a happy tune she heard somewhere while following her Ka-chan's directions. When she finally arrives to the quaint cottage the curious girl doesn't really pay any attention to it, the woman in front of it being more interesting. Welcome Nera-chan, how do you like your mindscape? The woman who just talked is smiling at the confused little girl. The regal-looking lady has a sort of ethereal beauty about her, one that is further enhanced by her snow-white hair and pupilless purple eyes. Her shapely figure hugged by a very expensive-looking white kimono don't really help toning it down either. But what really made the woman give her otherworldly look are the two horn-like protrusions in the shape of rabbit ears. This woman is no one else than Kagaya Otsutsuki, the rabbit goddess and current tenant in Uzumaki Yasha Nera's mindscape. Though for now little Nera didn't know about any of that and responded to the woman she now finally recognizes as her Ka-chan in the blunt, unintended insulting way only adorable kids get away with. Ka-chan is a bunny girl? Long ago at the dawn of the age of chakra there was a formidable woman. She was known by many names that were forgotten through history, and her deeds were even greater than the oh-so-revered Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama. In other words, she was an all-powerful ass-kicking bitch that was hailed as a goddess, and for damn good reasons too. So is it any wonder that Kagaya Otsutsuki, rabbit goddess and former ruler of the world, didn't have a her damn clue as to how to react to being called a bunny girl? Oh, what now? The baffled woman asks her little protege and adopted daughter. Said little girl just nods as she points at the horn-like protrusions that erected themselves from Kagaya's head. You got bunny ears on your head so that makes you a bunny girl. Little Neru explains as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Though to the girl's surprise, Kagaya just starts laughing while clutching her sides. And to think she thought that Neru compared her to those harlots working in seedy bars in their skimpy costumes. And just when she thought it couldn't get any better, the little blonde opens her mouth and utters 4 little words. I don't get it. That short sentence only served to make the rabbit goddess laugh even harder, making Nera pout while waiting until Kagaya calmed down. Once she did, however, Kagaya focused her attention on the small blonde in front of her. Now then, Nera-chan, do you know why I brought you here? The white-haired goddess asks in a kind tone. That single question made our petite heroine stop pouting and actually think for a moment. Why did you bring me inside of my head, Ka-chan? And why are you here anyways? Nera asks curiously, not realizing how utterly crazy it would sound as she ever tries to explain her current situation. Humph, as if she'll ever share her Ka-chan with anybody. Kagaya just sighs in that fond way parents sometimes do and slips her hand into her adopted daughter's, guiding the now bouncing girl, she could finally touch and hug her mother, to the patio at the back. Seating herself comfortably on a strewn pillow, the mature woman wasn't prepared for the little girl plopping herself into her lap and snuggling against her rather generous chest. Ka-chan is so soft and warm, Nera mutters happily, closing her eyes while waiting for Ka-chan to start her story. You remember I was the first to receive chakra by eating the fruits of the Shinju tree, yes? Kagaya asked gently, knowing how fickle the memories of little children can be. Hearing an affirmative noise coming out of Nera's mouth, Kagaya takes a deep breath and continues the story. I used my newfound powers to take over the elemental nations and ruled over the people as a benevolent queen, ushering in an era of peace. Yet it didn't last very long, for the humans sought my secrets in order to sate their greed and lust for power just so they could take my place and rule as a tyrant. The first few times I still held on to my faith that humans would realize that I only had the best intentions, but as the years passed I slipped further and further into darkness. Do you know why chakra is so dangerous, Neru? At that question, the little blonde looks up confused. Because of the giant jutsus that can destroy everything? She asks innocently. It is one of the more dangerous aspects, but no. The reason why chakra shouldn't have been given to humanity is because it warps the mind. You see, Neru-chan, the more innate an affinity you have towards chakra and the more of it is in your body, the harder the dominant traits of a person's personality will be amplified. Seeing the blank look on her daughter's face, Kagaya realized that she should dumb it down a bit. You've seen how weird some of the stronger ninjas act, right? Well, that is because just as how chakra can make you much stronger and faster, it also makes some parts of who you are much stronger, especially when you can use it easily. Letting out a silent ah, Nera suddenly manages to find a way to understand something her mind just couldn't lock away. So the weird green man screaming about youth is so extreme because chakra amplified his love for working out? The little girl asked carefully, trying to use the new word she learned properly. It's amplified, little one. And yes, that silly man is so active and loud because his chakra enhanced those already dominant traits of his persona. Kagaya admits, hoping silently that this youthfulness won't infect another human being. Oh well, back to the story. Now then, let's fast forward to about 30 years later into my reign. At that point I was already worn out and disillusioned thanks to the many attempts on my own life and those of my children. Still, I worked tirelessly to keep the peace, crushing revolts with extreme prejudice and brutal violence that got out of hand. In the end, my own son had to stop me when I tried to ensnare everyone in the world in a genjutsu that would show every single person their own perfect world. And I, drunk on the power that chakra gave me, turned into a giant 10-tailed beast in order to kill everyone not yet trapped in the genjutsu. After a long and hard fight, my son defeated me and split the jubi into the 9 bijou that roamed the world until recently. The chakra that remained was sealed into the moon, alongside me, where I was held captive for a very long time. But if you were on the moon all this time, how did you get in my head then? Once again, our adorable little protagonist with 2 viewpoints in INT didn't realize just how crazy that sounded. Kagaya just huffed and prodded Nera's forehead gently with her index and middle finger. Hush, little one, I am getting there. Holding back the urge to coo at the simply adorable way her daughter huffs, Kagaya instead collects her thoughts and decides to head straight to the crux of the matters. But yes, I lost track of time as I was forced to watch humanity wage war with the chakra my naive son gifted them until 8 years ago on October 10th. When your father summoned the Shinigami in order to seal the Kyuubi away once again into your brother and sister, his souls should have been taken as payment. Instead, the ancient being cut me off of what little chakra I had left and sealed me inside of you for some strange reason. And ever since then I have been watching over you, little one. The rabbit goddess finishes her tale, looking lovingly at Neru as she fights a losing battle against sleep in her mother's arms. Sweet dreams, my darling daughter. Fancy interval wanted for this position. Will pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies. We would also like to thank Mystic Spider for his line rake, which will be used further in the chapter. Little Yasha sighed as she let another pebble skip on the river surface. Daddy never let her train with Zura and I and Indra and I for some silly reason. She got chakra as well, didn't she? So why wasn't she allowed to train? Surely it wouldn't be just because she was the youngest sibling. What you doing here, Yasha? Shouldn't you be training with your dad and dorky brothers? A familiar voice asks her from a bit away. Looking to her right, the white-haired girl can spot one of her big brothers at the treelines with her crimson-red eyes. Standing there with a smile was a big tanuki made of sand whose head was above the treeline, the blue tribal markings partly hidden in the shadows of the forest. Shu and I. The girl yells happily, running towards the behemoth without any fear. Shu and I just smirks as a tendril of sand shoots out of his shoulder as it grabs the tiny girl and places her safely right on top of his head. Why are you out here, Yasha? I thought the old man said he'd be busy teaching the kids all day. The sentient sand construct asks, already having an inkling as to why his favorite little sibling is sitting out here. Father still won't train me for some weird reason, and he always looks scared for a bit when I ask. Yasha explains with a sigh, still trying even though it hurts every time she gets shooed out as if she's a dangerous beast. Their loss. Who wouldn't want to spend time with the only sibling who got her dad's smarts? The sand tanuki boasts, a few small tendrils shooting out to tickle the girl while he starts meandering about. Maybe he'll find something that'll let his little sis proclaim that they're going on an adventure again. Nay, Shu and I, remember when you said you wanted an awesome title? I think I got one, Yasha said after a few minutes of serene silence. You do? Let's hear it then, was the gruff reply of the sand tanuki. How does Shikaku of the desert sound to ya? Fancy interval wanted for this position. Will pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies. We wanted to use it earlier, but it didn't seem to fit with a flashback sequence. Opening her eyes blearily, Nera looks around her room disoriented for a few moments while trying to figure out who she was right now in this day and age. So that was Yasha, eh? She says softly to herself, feeling much calmer than she has in a while now. Then again, her chakra is flowing freely now instead of being locked away, so that might have something to do with it. Stretching her arms with a yawn, the petite blonde climbs out of bed, changing out of her pajamas and into a tank top and a pair of comfy pants. Opening her door quietly, Nera trods downstairs as silent as a ghost while finding a strange sort of comfort in the tranquil shadows. After making herself a nice steaming cup of tea, the girl opens the glass sliding door that leads to the backyard, bare feet flexing for a moment as they touch the grass. Closing her eyes while taking a deep breath, the young heroine's brow furrows for a moment as she can feel something writhing underneath her feet. It feels familiar. Maybe I can dash. Nera's thoughts are interrupted as suddenly the earth feels solid again, the flowing presence gone. Not yet, Nera-chan. We'll need to work on your chakra control a bit more before I let you interact with nature. Kagaya chides Neru, not wanting to lose her child just because she meddled with forces she wasn't ready for yet. Normally Neru would start shouting and arguing, but bits of the calming effect of nature chakra and Yasha's own gentle nature were still affecting her. Instead she asked a very simple question: when do we start then, Ka-chan? A few minutes later, more than enough time to finish her morning tea, the little girl is seated in a basic meditation pose with her legs crossed, eyes closed yet again, and her attention turned inwards in order to locate her chakra once again. Listening to the instructions spoken by her Ka-chan in a soothing lilt, Nera quickly locates her chakra and lets it flow through her body, directing it to certain points and limbs when directed so by Kaguya. You're doing great, Naruto. Now how about we try and reinforce your sight? Send a bit of chakra to your eyes and I'll guide you through the process. Nodding just the slightest amount with her head, Nara listens like the dutiful daughter she is, according to Kaguya anyways, and slowly trickles some chakra into her eyes, ignoring the slight burning feeling that her eyeballs give off since Kachan did mention the first few times might feel pretty we shoulder grab it from somewhere. Torn away from Kachan and chakra Bodsilan sees back no pushthebdtouchaway. The awesome line break for the utterly retarded blonde chakra monsters. See, told you we would put it in. Kushina was humming happily as she prepared breakfast for her husband and children, enjoying the peace and quiet that will surely be broken in a few minutes when Mito will barge down those stairs while Hiruzen tries to calm her down and Naru will probably be lost again in her own little world. Kushina muses sadly as she puts the dishes on the table. She used to be so energetic and happy, being just as loud as Mito while vying for her attention when Minato wasn't here. And then suddenly about 2 years ago she seemed to get quieter, as she builds walls around herself while drifting off into her own little wonderland. Sure, she still asked for training or to do something together, but for some strange reason she either got distracted by Mito, a mission suddenly popped up that required her expertise, or something happened that needed her immediate attention. And every time she faced her little sunshine afterwards that expression seemed less hurt and more resigned, the walls around her erected even further and higher. How is it that Minato manages to be so close to her while busy as Hokage while I seem to be drifting away from her further and further with every screw-up? Sure, Minato does his best to spend his time with all 3 of the kids, but he always seems to keep an eye on Naru whenever possible. Hell, even uses the old monkey's crystal ball when there's a lull in paperwork just to make sure their youngest daughter isn't in danger. Yo mom, what's on the table? Kushina hears from behind her. Turning around with a smile, Kushina looks at what could only be a blue-eyed carbon copy of her when she was 8 years old, plus whisker marks of course. Wearing a purple t-shirt with the Uzumaki spiral on each sleeve and black pants, a cheekily grinning Uzumaki Mito is already sitting at the table, her feet propped up as she leans back casually without a care in the world. Yet before she could say something, a tired voice sounds from the hallway. Mito, how many times do we have to tell you not to put your feet on the table? A red-headed boy with Minato's spiky hair and blue eyes says while trying to hold back another yawn. Namake's Hiruzen always did have an amusing accent when he isn't properly awake yet. Still, Kushina was happy that his facial structure leans more towards her. He wouldn't have been able to pull off the whisker marks as well as he did otherwise. Which has been verified thanks to Kushina drawing the same kind of whisker marks on her husband while he was napping on the couch. It just seems to fit her son as opposed to Minato. They just made the Hokage look silly for the rest of the day. Ah crap, her kids started bickering when she was lost in the memories of that day. Good prank indeed according to the Uzumaki matriarch. Both of you sit down properly before I make you databang. Kushina yells at the red-headed duo before looking around. And where's your sister? She already saw the teapot on the heating seal, which means that Naru is already awake, and her shoes are still at the front door so she has to be in the house. Mito just shrugs and grabs the teapot. Say what you want about her weirdo sister, but she knows how to make some pretty fucking good tea. Hiruzen just opens an eye blearily before pointing at the open terrace door that leads to the garden before closing it again. Kushina just sighed fondly. Her little boy could be such a Nara in the mornings. You guys dig in, I'll go and fetch Naruchan. Kushina tells the 2 eldest while heading out. Looking around for a moment, the redhead finds her wayward daughter sitting underneath the large tree right next to the koi pond meditating. Oh well, you learn something new each day. Frowning at her daughter as calling out to her doesn't seem to work, Kushina gets closer to Naru in order to shake her daughter out of her trance. She must have gotten it from Minato's side of the family. The Uzumaki matriarch grouches to herself, having a lot of experience with shaking her husband out of his focus and dragging him to the nearest source of food. Naruchan, didn't you hear me? It's time. Kushina didn't to say much more as her daughter's eyes snapped wide open, and before she realized it, Kushina was sliding through the open terrace door while trying to understand what just happened. You know, if she wasn't hungry she just could have said so. Mito couldn't help but comment dryly, a piece of toast still hanging out of her mouth. The awesome line break for the utterly retarded blonde chakra monsters. We're even so grateful for Mystic Spider's contribution we couldn't help but use it twice. For as long as Naru could remember, she hated the silence. Always being told to wait as her mother and others fawned over her siblings who had the halves of the QB inside of them made her be as loud and obnoxious as possible just to get a bit of attention, even if it was the bad kind. Anything just so that she wouldn't be alone with that damn suffocating silence that loomed over her every time she was forgotten. Daddy did try to spend as much time with her as possible, but it wasn't enough. She was still left with the silence far too much. And then came Ka-chan. It was pretty weird for her to suddenly hear a little voice in her head teaching her new stuff, telling her to mind her manners or to pay attention to important lessons. In short, she became the mommy in her head that chased away the silence around her and showed the world to little Naru and all the amazing things in it. I'll drive away the silence whenever it's too much, Naru-chan. That's what she said, isn't it? Then why is Ka-chan gone now? Why isn't she here right now? Shouldn't she be scolding Naru right now for losing control of her chakra like that? Kaha-chan wouldn't leave her to fend for herself in the silence. She promised that she would take care of Naru-chan until she could face the silence alone. Naru-chan, breathe, you're hyperventilating. The soothing lilt of Kagai's voice breaks through her panic, slowly calming the little blonde down. After a few minutes, Naru slowly got up, once again in complete control of herself. What happened, Kaha-chan? She asked the mother in her head, a bit scared. You panicked when Kushina forced you out of the trance you were in while working on your chakra, shutting down completely while using Shinra Tensei to push her away. Kagai answered, using the scraps of chakra she can still control to stop the chakra flow to her daughter's eyes to make them look their natural bloody red again. Go inside and get something to eat, Naru-chan. Take some time to collect yourself. The rabbit goddess orders Naru gently. Taking in a deep breath, the little blonde just nods and heads back inside where her siblings and mothers are looking at her worriedly. Hey, are you okay, Naru-chan? Kushina asks carefully. For some weird reason, the blonde doesn't like it so much when Kushina calls her Naru-chan. Still, she should answer. I'll be fine after I collect myself for a bit. She parrots Kaha-chan. Kushina just nods and Naru joins the breakfast table. And if everyone made sure she ate and drank a little bit more than usual because she was still pale and fidgety, no one said anything about it. Fancy interval wanted for this position. Will pay in virtual chocolate chip cookies. In all seriousness though, thank you Mystic Spider for your contribution. After breakfast, everyone took off to do their own things. Naru went back to her room to read a few messages that popped up during breakfast, and was rather curious as to what they could be saying. Opening her message board, she notices one that was sent to her last night. Right, I created the chakra blast back there. Why does it already seem like it was so long ago? Chakra technique creation, chakra blast. Base reward, plus 20 INT, chakra overload, 5 INT, chakra system rupturing, minus 10 INT, minus 25 chakra control. Total reward, plus 5 INT, minus 25 chakra control. The little blonde couldn't help but gape at the screen. She got smarter by making new moves? That's so awesome. Still sucks about the penalties because she had to go to the hospital, but hey, she'll just be more careful next time. New perk unlocked, Disciple of the Rabbit Goddess. Having the progenitor of chakra as your teacher will most certainly pay off in all of your future endeavors. If you train hard enough, it just might be possible for you to use techniques related to your primary and secondary elemental affinities without any hand seals. You'll be the envy of many shinobi if you manage it, not to mention the potential party tricks. At this, Naru was gaping at the message screen. Sealless jutsus? Those are like really hard to do. Only her daddy can do one, and that's making the Rasengan. Even he doesn't know how to add his wind chakra to it. Or how to do a wind jutsu without any seals. Without any preamble, Naru starts cackling madly while stroking her hands, utterly delighted with the possibilities, and also making Hiruzen and Mito back away from her door slowly. Oh, she is going to be the biggest badass around here once she manages to master that skill. After letting her insanity out in a rather healthy way, laughing is good for you after all, Naru opens the last message utterly confused, having no clue whatsoever as to what it refers to. What's a tensigan? 31, 32, 33 Anko counted lazily while reading a magazine, her feet resting on the back of Naru, who was now busy doing push-ups on what was quickly becoming their usual training ground. During the week Naru's training has been properly kicked off, the two have also been experimenting with the gamer ability. One thing in particular being that Naru now has several things floating at all time in her view. In the upper left corner she can now at all times see her health and chakra bars, while in the upper right corner she now has a mini-map taking up the upper right corner with a clock right below it. It's a basic RPG setup, but one that created a few blind spots that Naru had to get used to and fast. Anko and Migu do love exploiting them after all. Feeling said woman giving her a slight tap in the middle of her back with her heel, Naru picks up the pace again. Grumbling about stupid inigos who don't clean their sandals before putting them on people's backs, the little crimson-eyed heroine of our tale once again opened her status screen in order to break the monotony of this exercise. Uzumaki Yasha Naru LV May 21st, HP 520/520, Chakra 3750/3750, EXP 350/500, Strength equals 13+, Perception equals 21+, Endurance equals 49+, Charisma equals 3+, Intelligence equals 26+, Agility equals 56+, Luck equals 5+, Available stat points 6. Her AGI and END easily rose through the repeating of the first exercise Anko did with her, but after 5 continuous days of dodging Migu over and over there wasn't really much she could even after getting the related gold medal. So for the past 2 days they've been working mostly on Naru's strength and perception without touching any of the available skill points. Whereas increasing her strength is a simple matter of the proper exercises and hauling stuff around, perception is something that needs to be trained 24/7. Speaking of perception, he's 6 minutes later than usual. Did he make his weights heavier? Naru asks herself as her slowly becoming intelligent brains are connecting the seemingly random information to a most fruitful plan indeed. Ignoring her teacher's surprise yelp as the little blonde jumps up, Nair grabs Anko by the collar of her coat and drags the TNI employee behind her to the usual spandex habitat, also known as Training Ground 19. "I'll hey be more gentle, you crazy girl, or better yet, steer away from the spandex. Only a vile road of green bounciness awaits you there," Anko says, a bit panicked, not wanting to see the little tyke become a guy clone. Even the snake mistress couldn't help but shudder at the mental image of Nair dressing up like a guy clone, complete with the haircut and eyebrows. Thankfully enough, the image disappears with her little protege's next words. "Kent, we kinda need his help to get some proper weights," Nair says while she keeps running and dragging Anko towards the fields of youthfulness. Hearing her, Inigo's rather confused, "Huh?" The little blonde realizes not everyone can hear her train of thoughts like Kaa-chan. Easy, the guy uses weights to train his body and speed by wearing them 24/7 and gets heavier ones whenever the others get too light. This not only helps him while training but actually trains his muscles while he goes throughout his day, helping you train a stat with a penalty more easily. Anko finishes the sentence, now grinning at how much smarter her pupil seemingly has become. No, it's more like she's finally applying herself. The girl already had street smarts, she just never had a reason to use them, and Kagaya was more worried with making sure her little Yasha was happy and actually mastered the basic necessities for going through life like reading, writing, etc. Bursting through the foliage, the two females can see Mato Guy vibrating while doing a handstand. Wait, are those supposed to be push-ups? 888990919293959101103103105106108109. 110. The man yells excited, doing the exercise so fast he's forced to skip a few numbers while counting out loud. Stretching his arms, the only jonin to have a bounty on his head from the Fashionistas United League finally spots his two visitors who were patiently waiting, read that as gawking like stupefied morons, for him to finish doing his warm-ups. Throwing a fabulous Colgate smile at them, the sublime green beast of Konoha can't help but wonder why a little waif of a girl is accompanying his old classmate. "Ah, Anko, it's always wonderful to see you. How can I help you?" he asks sincerely, the woman having his utmost respect to put up with everything thrown at her after Orochimaru's betrayal. Letting out an exasperated sigh, Anko easily slips out of her, still unofficial, apprentice's grasps and dusts her trench coat off while making plans to up the squirt's training. Nobody drags her coat through the mud and gets away with it. Oh well, letting her taijutsu training being handled by Guy should be a decent educational punishment. "Sup Guy, just wanted to see if you got any kind of training weights for the chibi I'm training," Anko asks with a wide smile, her left eye starting to twitch as Naru starts muttering things that suspiciously sound like shitty old hag. Still, the novice teacher shows admirable restraint for once, as the jonin with the thickest eyebrows and brightest smile is actually seriously thinking about her request. That single fact is already enough to make Anko squirm around rather nervously instead of bickering with her student. When Nair finally realizes that bushy brows is seemingly inspecting her, she grows quiet, not used to strangers inspecting her so intently. The only other one who kept gauging her instead of more famous siblings like that was some creepy-looking old dude named Danzo. "So, watch us staring at?" the young blonde asks nervously, opening her mouth to simply break the awkward silence pertaining the training ground. Blinking a few times, Guy shows off his perfect white Colgate smile while getting into his good guy pose. "I would like for you to spar with me, young pupil," the spandex lover exclaims, barely even blinking at the floating screen that suddenly pops up in front of the red-eyed girl. New quest: battle the sublime green beast of Konoha. Objective: last 300 seconds. Optional: land a hit. Optional: last 480 seconds. Optional: last 600 seconds. Rewards on quest completion: plus 30 taijutsu skill. Narrowing her eyes at the 33 question marks that hide the potentially awesome rewards for fulfilling the bonus objectives, Nara takes a moment to calm down. Opening her eyes again, her eyes are as filled with steel as an 8-year-old's can be. Anko, now genuinely fearing that her student could actually get hurt, tries to step in. "Naru, I know you're excited to spar with a jonin, but we barely started your training. Hell, we haven't even touched on taijutsu yet." Anko nearly barks out as she watches Naru get ready for her little suicide mission. "Do not worry, Anko. It is only a friendly match to gauge her abilities and potential. If it will make you feel better, I shall treat this as an exercise to help your young charge determine what taijutsu styles fit her best." Guy tries to calm down the near-frantic woman. For him it was heartwarming that even though she wasn't a teacher for long, and boy did the rumor mills have a field day when that tidbit of information came out, she already seemingly bonded with her young charge and actually took her responsibilities towards the Hokage's daughter seriously. Anko struggles with the fact that she will let the young blonde actually spar with the foremost expert on taijutsu in the village before she even has had her first lesson in the subject. "If something happens to her, you're explaining it to the blonde dame," the Tokubetsu jonin says, resigned, jumping into a nearby tree in order to stay out of the way. Naru just sends her a grateful smile before she turns to Guy with an impressively neutral face. The man simply smiles and slips into his stance, as a countdown timer appears above them. As the man observes the young girl's shuffling, time slows down for Naru as she can feel her Ka-chan nudging her in a position with gentle prods. When that timer hits 0, Naru-chan, I want you to rush forwards and hit him a few times to see how he reacts. He's mostly gauging your skills, so he will mainly remain on the defensive. That should give us plenty of opportunity to feel out his style." Giving her mother a mental nod to show that she heard her, Naru can already feel her chakra pumping through her body, the energy almost begging the little girl to wield it. "Not yet," she thinks to herself as she weathers the incessant thrum underneath her skin. "Wait until the time is right." At this, the energy calms down yet makes sure its young wielder can feel the presence. The moment the counter hits 0, Naru bursts forward, the young girl intent to hit her adversary with all that she has. Guy still has more than enough time to slip into the Goken stance, but Naru doesn't care about that as Yasha already knows where to hit. Letting herself drop at the last moment, Yasha slides across the grass with her legs stretched out. Guy jumps up to avoid a low kick, blindsided as the young blonde propels herself after him with a burst of chakra originating from her hands. Out of reflex, the man grabs the girl by the leg and throws her away while making sure that she won't be hurt too much. That was unexpected, to think that she could already control her chakra to that extent. The green beast thinks to himself, landing on his feet as he simply waits for the Hokage's daughter to attack again. As Yasha gets up, Guy can see the absolute focus in those scarlet eyes that nearly border on the mental equivalent of tunnel vision. Once again running towards her enemy, Naru cocks back her arm to ready a punch. Taking a wide swing, the young combatant overextends and Guy takes advantage of it, tripping the imbalanced girl. "You must may." Guy starts to lecture the young girl, only to be forced to step back as some kind of force impacts him. Looking down at the now smirking girl, Guy manages to get over his surprise as he laughs heartily. "Well done, young one, using that fall to fire off a burst of chakra through your feet with a Mew kick is quite ingenious." The taijutsu expert compliments her young charge before he gets serious once again. "But I wonder, just how long can you keep up throwing your reserves around like that?" As he already expected, Yasha didn't answer him and merely slides into what could generously be called a sloppy stance. Guy merely shows off his pearly white teeth once again in response. "That is it. Let the flames of youth power you as you plow through the walls ahead of you," he shouts out before making the universal "come at me, bro" gesture. And from that moment on, Anko can only watch rather impressed from the tree branch she is sitting on as her young apprentice keeps going after the walking fashion disaster, the Uzumaki stubbornness she inherited from Kushina working in tandem with Minato's analytical skill that made him so well versed in Fuinjutsu. Strategies and combos were barely used twice, and if they were then it was usually with a purpose. Neither missed the white flower pattern in those scarlet orbs that are blazing in the blonde's eyes as she stays down a few seconds longer than before, fatigue obviously getting to her, as she has been giving it her all from the get-go. Any other kid her age would have collapsed or given up already. She truly will be a force to be recognized one day if she keeps up this kind of dedication. Getting up with a struggle, the panting girl shakily sways as she gets in a hunched forward position as a hand clutches at her abdomen. "Maybe we should stop, you're obviously hurting," Guy says with a hint of remorse in his voice. He had kept his skill level to mid-genin, and still an 8-year-old without any training managed to last pretty long, especially with all those bursts of chakra she kept throwing around. "Like hell I am, they're already so far ahead of me, how can I look them in the eye if I don't make an effort?" Naru screams in frustration. Azura and Indra, Hiruzen and Mito, they all left their sister behind as they walked their own paths, selfishly telling them that they did it for Yasha. It may not have gotten that far yet with the Uzumaki siblings, but history once again started repeating itself. All the signs were there. And Naru did not want to make the same mistake Yasha did, waiting long enough due to delusional hope as the gap becomes too big to cross. Sighing in resignation, Guy takes up his stance for one last time. At this point he will just knock the girl so that she can rest her body. Anybody else watching would attest that she deserved it. Baring her teeth, the little blonde lets out a rather animalistic growl as she charges towards the Jonin on last time. Her legs are burning from fatigue and the chakra used to reinforce it while her arm is shaking. Jumping in the air so that the sun is in her back, the hand holding her abdomen lets go to reveal the kunai she picked up on the field. With a yell of sheer defiance the kunai is slashed down and an arc of chakra is released out of it not even 2 feet away from Guy's. Naru won't know if the attack hit until she wakes up, that last strike truly having taken the last of reserves. Naru Yasha Naru Yasha Naru Yarisha Yasha Naru Yasha Naru. 928 seconds. That's how long little Naru lasted, that crescent wave of energy the size of the girl even managing to leave a nick on Guy's shoulder. Walking through the streets of Konoha with her sleeping apprentice on her back, Anko for once doesn't react to the looks and barbs sent her way. Instead she focuses her attention on making sure that the little blonde sleeping on her back won't be woken up due to external impulses. "Did I do it?" A small, wavering voice asks Anko, sounding as if the wrong answer could crush her. "You didn't just do it, kid, you curb-stomped every objective you set out to do. Not bad for a brat with barely any training," the purple net says, her usual tone replaced with genuine affection lacing her every word. "Though he did stay at a mid-genin level skills mostly, so you still have a long way to go, you shitty brat," she adds as her normal teasing lilt returns to her voice. "I know, it'll be a while before I actually catch up," Naru says tiredly, though both know that there is a smile now. And even on her deathbed decades from now, Mitarashi Anko has no idea what compelled her to be so bloody mushy. The only thing she knows is that what she promised next helped reshape the elemental nations. Be it Mito or Hiruzen, Azura or Indra, the Hokage or even the Rakuta Sannin, I'll be with you till the end of the line, I promise. Anko silently promises, making sure that in the hustle and bustle of the village, only the two of them could hear and be aware of the promise. After all, this is nothing for shitty outsiders to stick their noses in. Thank you, Nei-chan, is the barely caught response as Nero falls asleep again, this time with a peaceful, content smile on her face. One mirrored on Anko's face as she takes the little tyke home. And if her current facial expression scares the crap out of the village, well, let's just call it a double win for the dango-loving teacher. The most youthful line break for spandex-wearing taijutsu enthusiasts. Meito Guy is a man that has seen and done a lot, quite a bit of which he isn't exactly proud of. Then again, that could be easily said for a lot of the ninja in this world, and the higher your rank, the more the statement holds true. Still, his current bout of melancholic nostalgia was brought along by the lesson he tried to teach the Hokage's daughter. The same one his father tried to teach him in the same way when he wasn't that much older. There is no shame in admitting that there are those stronger than you. If you can't beat them now, retreat and train until the one who is your superior will be your equal. That little pearl of wisdom was imparted onto him as he tried to beat his father every day for weeks at a time, much in the same way Yasha did. He so desperately wanted to prove himself after Hatake Tsukumo enrolled him in the Shinobi Academy based on his potential as a taijutsu specialist. Where everyone else could use ninjutsu or genjutsu, he had only his fists and his feet, so of course he trained harder than almost anyone. Just to prove everyone that he could be their comrade and walk proudly at their side, protecting and serving the Leaf during the war. Like hell I am, they're already so far ahead of me, how can I look them in the eye if I don't make an effort? Even now those words echo through his head, resonating with the resolve and promise his own fists held so long ago. I do not doubt that soon enough you will not only be at their side, you will be running ahead to give them the same motivation. Guy thinks fondly to himself as he passes the academy, recounting the fleeting memories of this place that he still has. He can even see himself there pounding away at the training dummies. Hiya, oh wait, that is an actual child still practicing his taijutsu with zeal. Watching the child train zealously for a few more minutes, Meito Guy jumps over the wall and walks towards the kid to give him a few pointers. In another world, Rock Lee and Meito Guy would not have met until he became Team 9's Genin Sensei. But here and now, they met earlier than expected and started to form without a doubt the most youthful relationship between sensei and pupil this world has seen since the founding of the Hygiene villages. Even if it did happen a few years ahead of schedule. While Kushina isn't afraid to call herself a kick-ass mother with two of her little ones that will, probably most likely, back it up, she does know that her relation with Neru can be called distant at best. Still, it doesn't make her any less scary and protective as she opens the door and sees Anko carrying an unconscious blonde on her back. Before you say anything, Guy did have a hand in this as well, Anko says frantically in sheer fright. What, like hell she's gonna bear the red-hot habanero's ire all by herself? Her words only served to piss off said fucking scary woman even more, those long red tresses even splitting into 9 equal parts and swaying like the Kyuubi's tails while her face looks like vengeance incarnate. And as many before her, Anko picks this time to start praying to whatever deity willing to listen to save her from this evil. Get inside, put Neru in bed, and then you and I will have a little chat, Kushina says eerily calm. Letting out a squeak that sounds more or less affirmative, Anko walks into the house with only one thought in her mind: oh holy log, please save me. Not so awesome line break for the bone sadist sensei. Also, I have an awesome name for an ultimate attack that I'm gonna try and get in somehow. For some reason the forest is silent on this peaceful day, the animals making nary a sound. If one does wonder why they only have to follow the melodious laughter that can be heard throughout this part of the forest. If one is brave enough to do so, they would stumble upon a most peculiar sight. A young girl with hair white as snow and crimson eyes sitting at a table with a tanuki made of sand and a cat with 2 tails consisting of nothing but blue fire. Though both of these inhuman beings are quite strange, it is what they're doing that truly baffles the mind. They're having a tea party with the little girl dressed as a shrine maiden. What happened next, Shu and I? Yasha asks, eager to hear the rest of the humorous tale her brother figure is telling. So yeah, after tripping Zura I was hoping he'd just fall into the barrel, but he fell with his face straight into a woman's chest. The broad just takes it all in stride and starts flirting with him, trying to get him even redder as Son Goku's rear. The little guy keeps denying that he enjoyed it, until the husband starts meddling himself with it. Shikaka talks, 3 puppets of sand reenacting the entire scene, so the man starts glaring at Zura and asks a simple question. So you don't think my wife's bosom is all that UI? Zura, being the idiot he is, simply shakes his head, not realizing where his hands are. Of course that's when the Persad can't keep it in anymore, and starts shouting at him, then why are you still groping them, you lit shite? At the rather crudely delivered punchline, Yasha starts giggling again. Both Shikaku and Matatabi smile as the girl enjoys herself, yet they are also annoyed with the Rakuto Sannin for keeping her hidden away from the rest of the world. Oh well, Shikaku already took it upon himself to try and break her out of that cage the old fart built around Yasha. The fact that Matatabi is already on board is just a nice extra. Now he just needs to find a way to get those other 7 idiots on board. Line break for the psychopathic older Tanuki brother. I mean Enscape. White Emperor Sword sounds pretty fucking badass, doesn't it? Getting up and stretching her limbs and upper body not unlike a cat, Neru opens her bloody red eyes to gaze upon the waning moon. That really seems like a boring place to be sealed, and the little girl can't help but think to herself, the moon is nothing more than a barren white rock in the sky after all. Oh, it wasn't that exciting, no, but at least I had Hamura and his clan up there to keep me company. It didn't hurt that I could keep an eye on the world from my seal as well, Kaguya says with mirth, making herself known to her surrogate child. Nodding while getting slowly out of bed, oh god, her everything is still stiff and hurts a bit. Neru can't help but let out a happy sigh as she can feel the cold floor underneath her feet. Taking rather small steps to her closet, the girl takes out a red tank top and a pair of dark cargo pants before heading to the bathroom. It doesn't matter how late/early it is, she smells like she needs a shower 5 hours ago. Meanwhile downstairs Minato just chuckles to himself as he can hear the water run through the plumbing. At least she's not singing in the shower right now. Kushina would rain hell upon her for making so much noise before 5 a.m. His hand doesn't stop for the slightest of moments, as he keeps doing his paperwork absent-mindedly. Sure, he could have just done it all in the morning, but if he finishes it all right now, he should have about 2 days off. And one of those will be spent with his little girl that apparently tried to duke it out with Mato Guy. With a sigh, Minato puts down his pen as he rubs his eyes, thoughts on his kid with the highest weirdness factor. While it did warm his heart that she came clean about Neru's life being essentially a video game, it didn't prepare him for the shock that was transmigration. The fact that his daughter is the reincarnation of the daughter of the Rakuto Sennin, and may quite possibly retain skills from that lifetime, is something that he hopes never becomes common knowledge. Who knows what Kuma, or even worse, IWA would do if they found out. You okay, Dad? An amused voice asks from the stairs, the near silent footsteps helping him easily identify the person coming closer. As fine as I could be, though I wouldn't say no to a day in bed like you had, he says teasingly while his daughter prepares tea with skills one could only match after having dedicated a lifetime to brewing the herbal concoction, huh? Father and daughter can't help but say at the same time, their thoughts ending at the same place. Pouring a cup for both herself and her father, a serene silence hangs over them as both do their best to catch up with their messages and accompanied rewards/headaches. Glaring at the sleek screen appearing in front of Neru, Minato can't help but feel a tad jealous at how awesome it looks. Ooh, nice, one of my perks got an upgrade. The little blonde exclaims happily, once again distracting her father from the not-so-inviting mountain of paperwork. Glancing to where his daughter is sitting next to him, Minato's inner gamer can't help but hum appreciatively at the perk. Minor precognition. Trust your gut and it'll take care of you. You have the chance to predict when something bad happens or when powerful enemies are nearby due to your instincts. In battle you can slightly read and predict the enemy's attack before it happens. You gain a bonus of +5 perception, rank to a 5. Not a bad perk, and it seems that it can still be upgraded. Is it skill-related? The yandere asks, the bane of his existence all but conveniently forgotten. Yeah, it's coupled to the precognition skill. It hit 205 somewhere during my spar with Guy and probably was upgraded then. Neru admits with some hesitation, pride obviously bruised at being battered around like a ragdoll. Still, being kicked into the ground will do wonders from keeping her get overconfident. Minato thinks to himself while making a quick calculation. It seems this perk will max out at 800, maybe if you hit the max skill level you'll get a variation or an upgrade of it. The Hokage thinks out loud, his daughter dutifully nodding along. Having a smart and kick-ass dad who knows how games work can only help her in the long run if included into her training and experimenting with her daddy. Can this gaming ability be called a Kekkai Genkai? Neru asks curiously, causing Minato to stiffen. Nope, not at all, he says frantically. Like hell he'll let it be known as a Kekkai Genkai. Those shitty assholes on the civilian council and Danzo will try and turn her little girl into a breeding mare just to see if it reproduces. As if he'll let them, any unapproved guy touching his little girl will be given to Enko and Ibiki to play with. Yes, they'll pay most dearly indeed for trying to get to his precious. Meanwhile, out of Minato's mind and back into the real world, Neru can't help but look on confused as her father is chuckling rather menacingly while a dark aura surrounds him. Ka-chan, should we do something? The little blonde asks her second parental figure, seeing as the first one is a bit occupied. Kaguya just shakes her head as she is wearing a rather vicious smile, not that her little sunshine can see it. Besides, she has an idea as to what the man is thinking and wholeheartedly approves. Not at all, Neru-chan, just let him work it out of his system and check your messages. You did fulfill all of the requirements to get the entire reward of the quest. The Divine Mother says in a serene tone, distracting the youngling rather successfully. As most children her age and gamers of all walks and time, Neru quickly pulls up the window with the quest rewards to eagerly find out what kind of shinies she earned. Quest: battle the sublime green beast of Konoha. Objective: last 300 seconds complete. Optional: land a hit complete. Optional: last 480 seconds complete. Optional: Last 600 seconds, complete. Rewards on quest completion, plus 30 taijutsu skill, shadowed leather vambraces, fleeting greaves, teleport crystal, quest item, full completion bonus, 500 EXP. Awesome, got some new gear. Our little red-eyed protagonist can't help but think out loud, pulling her father away of the idea that castrating all boys around Naru and Mito's age group would make for a wonderful law. Blissfully unaware of the rather controversial, bats hit crazy, thoughts going through her overprotective father's head, little Naru opens her inventory and toggles the description of her new items while Minato can't help but groan silently at the cluttered mess that is his daughter's inventory. It seems she has everything in it, ranging from kunai to food to even 3 spare sets of clothes all mixed through each other. Obviously she ignored or didn't even notice the rather handy sorting button on top of it. Managing to rein in his temptation to just press the button, Minato quickly eyeballs the stats of the armor and nods, the quest rewards seemingly not too bad. Shadowed leather vambraces, 5 armor, 2 AGI. Fleeting leather greaves, 4 armor, max speed plus 5%. Of course Naru wastes no time in equipping the items, the black leather vambraces snugly covering most of her forearm and wrists while her shins are now covered with an extra layer made of leather. Wow, these are actually pretty comfy, the junior blonde observes while flexing her arms and legs with a grin. Her father just chuckles as she starts shadowboxing, but alas, those last vile forces of bureaucracy are taunting him into engaging battle once more. Yet he shall prevail as he did so many times before, or he will not be known as the Yondaime Hokage. Dad, stop pulling that face and finish the paperwork. The Anti-Paperwork Association sponsored break line. Sure, I got it from another series, but it's an awesome move. Now Naru can be considered one of the most blunt and honest 8-year-olds in Konoha and learned very early in life thanks to her godfather, and Ka-chan that outright lying to Higgly trained ninja is a pretty stupid idea. Purposely making your statements rather vague or simply not mentioning things until the time is right? Jiraiya the Gama Sannin will admit without any shame that he let roll a single manly tear down his cheek that consisted of 100% pure, concentrated pride when Naru took to it like a fish to water. Sure, the then 6-year little blonde had to think pretty hard when she tried it the first few times while she pretty much parroted the rabbit gods, but pretty soon she got the hang of it. And boy did a lot of people curse however taught Naru that advanced bullshitting technique. And once again those skills are more or less put to use as Naru is absent-mindedly turning the teleport crystal in her hand, the construct catching the rays of the rising sun and acting as a kaleidoscope. While it makes for quite the beautiful display, it isn't exactly what our blonde protagonist is focused on. Quest: The Crystal Trail Travel Guide. Objective: Go to the training grounds with the Hokage. Objective: Find the travel matrix and use it. So, this game wanted her to take her daddy to a random spot in the training ground where something was already prepared for them to travel? Yeah, just because she's young doesn't mean she's stupid. It's obvious that while the game so far had been helpful, it can also possibly work against her. The ceiling matrix and teleport crystal are clearly ways for Naru to move around in between places, but since she doesn't know where to, it can also leave her stranded somewhere bad. And if she followed the quest, then her daddy might possibly get hurt as well. If only there was someone super strong who could come along. Wow, so Minato didn't find Sensei's old stash of stress relievers. Do I owe him one hell of an apology? A rather familiar voice spoke up from behind Naru. Turning around quickly, the blonde ball of energy launched herself into her godfather's arms. Jiraiya Gigi, welcome back from the super-secret spy stuff. She shouts happily while the aforementioned ninja just chuckles while trying to hide his shock at the much harder impact than usual. Wow, you must have been training a lot, little tadpole, he says happily, accepting a cup of tea with his free hand from his old apprentice. Oh Sage, I'd stop my research for like 5 days just for a bit of Naru's tea. The man couldn't help but think as his goddaughter is now hanging on his shoulder like a spider monkey. What, you thought the super pervert, beacon and prophet of all things above PG-13 would forever swear off his noble quest of spreading perverse joy to the masses for some, admittedly divine, tea? Ha, I laugh and spit on your delusions, good sir. Sensei, when did you get back? Minato asked with a smile, rolling his eyes good-naturedly at his daughter's favorite perch. About 10 minutes ago. I would have come sooner, but I got stuck wrapping up some loose ends. Jiraiya responds in his usual goofy tone, though his student understands the grim undertone of the message. Still, both men pay the confused blonde girl no mind as they read the latest quest objectives. Both are experienced and justified paranoid men and waste no time in dissecting the message. It should also come to no surprise that they reach the same conclusion. 2 or 3 NBU? Jiraiya proposes rather casually. 2 NBU and you as well. Minato nods in confirmation, while flaring his chakra to summon 2 of his more trusted elite guard. Within seconds 2 black-haired men are kneeling in front of the Hokage, both wearing the standard uniform of their branch. The only difference is that the man with the weasel mask has a ponytail, and the man with the hawk mask has short and spiky hair. You summoned us, Hokage-sama? Weasel asked from his submissive position. Just as Minato was going to explain the situation, his daughter, who slept more than 18 hours, decided to do it for him in her usual way. Hi there, Weasel and Birdie. We're going to the training fields to inspect some weird teleport thingy that can only be activated by a crystal that's soulbound to me. Wanna come with us? It'll be an adventure into a quite possible trap. Hawk thinks he summarized both his and Weasel's reaction pretty well. Say what now? Ah, the sounds and sights of Konoha in the morning are always something to behold. The rising sun peeking over the trees and buildings as its golden rays are cast over the earth. The sound of nature only broken every now and then by a distant Yuwith that seems to have picked up an echo today, and early risers going about their day. Just another day in the strongest ninja village of the elemental nations, or it would have been if not for the sight of the Hokage, his teacher, and two ANBU watching a bunch in poke a red ceiling array with a stick. Even more peculiar was the little girl pouting to the side. So, why can the clone poke the thingy with a stick and I can't? She asks with a neutral voice, and not whining at all. She's way too kick-ass for that. Hawk just rolls his eyes and ruffles the girl's hair while motioning for his clone to poke harder. Because short stuff, if you poke the seal with a stick and something goes wrong you get hurt. If the clone pokes the seal with a stick and something goes wrong it'll only go poof. He explains, chuckling as the little tyke growls at him. Call me short again, I dare you. Nera threatens the ANBU, her glare all but ignored as Hawk leans forward until his face is only a few inches away from the Hokage's daughter. Taking a deep breath, Hawk did something that he will admit a few years from now, shit piss drunk mind you, that he shouldn't have done that. Teeny tiny Vimy girly, small as fuck little midget that can easily fit in my pocket. He sings out playfully as he drums his fingers to the beat of his oh so clever little rhyme. So busy enjoying himself, the raven-haired man doesn't pay any notice to the trembling little blonde he's teasing, her eyes now shadowed by her bangs. Them's fighting words she growls out as she now glares at the man with her Tensigen activated. And even with the size of the Hokage and his partner, and the frantic gestures Jiraiya made in order to tell him to back the fuck up and run like hell, the man still doesn't let up. After all, what's an 8-year-old girl with almost no formal training and an unknown Digitsu gonna do to him? Wait, unknown Digitsu? Opening his eyes again, Hawk gauges the little girl seriously for the first time, noting how she's closely resembling an angry mini Tsunade. Just with a more imposing eye color and mutation, mind you. Now, Naru may look just as angry as she is, but her mind is oddly tranquil and focusing on something that her Nei-chan taught her after she got angry the first few days with how often she got kicked around. If you have the time and energy to get angry at something, use that rage and resources to either improve yourself or to make the fucker pay. And that is what Naru's mind did, coming up with a simple yet devastating plan. She pulled her fist back and focused the Shinra Tensei in her fist so that all the force would be released into a concentrated point instead of it being spread over a larger area. And there was only one satisfactory way that the energy would have been released. So it was with an evil smirk that Naru released a point-blank, concentrated Shinra Tensei by punching the guy who mocked her right in the crotch. Time slowed down as Hawk's eyes bulged out of their sockets, his jaw dropping both in shock and agony as he's propelled backwards, his body folding neatly in two like a ragdoll. The small sonic boom encompassing the event seemingly is the cue for time to resume its natural course. The short-haired ANBU launched backwards into a tree. Said tree trembled underneath the impact, spiderweb cracks crawling from where the man landed, but it still managed to stand strong with the will of fire. The idiot that was punched into said tree, not so much. It's pretty safe to say he was turned into a quivering mess. Itachi, he croaks out somehow with a voice that is a few octaves too high. She punched me in the dick, man. He informs his colleague of the obvious in quite a pitiful way. She punched me in the dick so hard my Sharingan activated. Itachi, whose codename is Weasel for those of you who didn't realize it, merely winced in sympathy. The memory now burned forever in his mind. He activated it first to see what kind of technique Naru would use as he didn't recognize it, or the way she gathered chakra in her fist. If only he knew what the cost of his curiosity would have been, the fate of his comrade in arms might not have been seared into his mind for eternity. Oh, who was he kidding? Itachi was totally going to turn this incident into a lesson for little Sasuke about never underestimating his enemies. That and to never piss of a woman to the point of righteous fury. Still, he should answer his partner, shouldn't he? I know sure sway, I saw it happen. You did earn it though. The revealed ANBU says with a sigh as rubs his forehead through his mask somehow, the fingers grazing the porcelain soothing his oncoming headache without actually touching his skin. It was going to be one of those days, wasn't it? Ignoring the sad ET to Itachi, coming from his idiot cousin, Itachi turns to look again at the Hokage and Sannin that turn their attention to the ceiling matrix while his little blonde charge is staring intently at a screen before giggling madly. Congratulations, you just beat an ANBU level shinobi before graduating to Genin. If there were spies or ninjas of other nations around to see it, you would have been in the bingo book already and become one of the youngest ever to grace its pages. As it stands, you'll have to make do with what we give you for doing this supposed to be impossible feat. Rewards: unlocked title, male bang. Unlocked achievement, 1 Puyunch. Defeat an opponent 30 levels or higher above you with a single hit. Unlocked perk, these fists were made for hitting, 2 of 3, equals unarmed damage plus 10%, plus 50 taijutsu skill, plus 50 luck. Seriously, that was like a 1 in a million chance it would work out the way it did. Plus 1000 EXP. Haori of the Fallen Avian, legendary. Fair warning, rewards like this don't come along often. You have to pull some legend weight for a dairy stuff if you want loot of this size again so early on. So go out and be crazy. Chakra technique creation, Shinra punch, reward, plus 20 INT. Fingers gliding over various screens, the latest edition of Neru's armor set materializes in a burst of light, the surprisingly thick fabric weighing a bit heavy on the little blonde's shoulders. Still, she can't help but beam proudly at the simple black haori that reaches her ankles, the coat proof of her epicness and strength. Yes, if this isn't a sign of what an amazing kunoichi she'll become in the future, then she doesn't know what will be. That, and she had to admit that the coat has some pretty sweet stats. Haori of the Fallen Avian, legendary, 95 armor, 12 STR, 8 AGI. Snapping her fingers twice, a mirror replaces the screens in front of her as she poses in front of it, her latest piece of gear thankfully managing to complete the outfit instead of clashing with it and making her look silly. Though there's an awful lot of red and black in the gear that she gets, who cares? If she can pull the look off, then she shouldn't worry about it. Bored now? Neru announced to the world before skipping to where Daddy was working. That ceiling array looks pretty interesting after all. Leaving behind the carnage that she wrought by merely reacting, Itachi can't help but ponder an old but rather apt saying that's been flying around the elemental nations ever since this village was founded. The crazier a Konohanin be, the more power they carry. Line break for those fallen in the line of duty. R.I.P. Shursui, you will be dearly missed and be mocked oh so much. She was wrong. It was so boring there. All Daddy and Jiraiya did was staring at the squiggly lines while muttering all sorts of weird words and things to each other she didn't understand. Taking the pretty crystal again out of her pocket, she hangs it around her neck with the thin silver chain that somehow got attached to it. Playing with the thing in her hand, Neru looks back at her daddy and finally catches a snippet of conversation she can follow. So we know that it will teleport the user in between two of the same places, but the part needed to activate the array seems to be missing a key. Jiraiya comments in one of his rare serious mood. To his side, his most successful, and still alive, apprentice shrugs his shoulder. He was more familiar with gaming mechanics after all, and this looked a lot like a fast travel point. Well, it's probably the crystal that Neru got. Though how it will get activated I don't know. It's not as if she has to merely say teleport while holding onto it, he says with a chuckle. Jiraiya can't help but chuckle as well as master and apprentice look at each other, the little bit of humor needed to alleviate tensions. Teleport, not turning towards the flash of light, both of their faces are frozen in the middle of their laughter, though now their cheeks are visibly strained in order to keep them frozen that way. Kushina's gonna kill us, isn't she? Probably. All I know is that I'll be sleeping in my office the coming weeks if she finds out. Turning towards two of his most loyal A and B with a glare that made many a IWA shit their pants, he uttered a single sentence that would haunt their dreams for the coming weeks. Don't tell my wife what happened, Hokage's orders. Line break sponsored by the teleporting safety comedy. Because you will damn well follow their rules if you want to arrive with all your limbs intact. In a rather tranquil meadow, all seemed right as a breeze teasingly played with the grass that swayed along with its tune. Sadly enough, the piece wasn't meant to last. The bright light flashed into the air for a few seconds, just long enough to spit out a waif of a girl that fell right on her face. The little girl didn't move an inch after her rather sudden landing. Surely she wasn't dead? I mean, what would I do with this story if its protagonist already died? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Little Neru groans pitifully as she doesn't bother to move from her position. The earth felt nice and cool anyways. Of course you shouldn't have, Neru-chan. What if you were dropped somewhere dangerous and there was no one around to save? Kaguya scolds her impulsive child, truly grateful that they weren't dropped somewhere lethal. Sorry Ka-chan, I was just really excited and wanted to help. Neru mumbles out dejected. Ka-chan's right, even though it still hurts the little blonde that her Ka-chan is upset with her. Sighing carefully so that there won't be getting any dirt in her mouth, the little blonde relaxes as she feels a warmth around her like she's being hugged. It's alright Neru-chan, just be more careful in the future. Both me and your father would be very upset if something were to happen to you. Now how about we get up and see where we landed him? Nodding excitedly, Neru immediately bounces up and lands on her feet, peering around curiously. It was an unassuming generic meadow she landed in, the only special sight being another ceiling array just like the one at the training grounds just a few feet away from her. Only this one was black and not glowy red. That probably means it ain't working right now, her childish mind concludes before walking to the only opening in the tree line around her. A simple dirt path was there, one that probably leads to somewhere. Stopping at the start of the path, Neru quickly equips her kunai, that seemed to all be resting comfortably in a pouch strapped around her right thigh. Taking one out in a reverse grip, our little heroine finally nods to herself as she starts walking down the trail, curious as to where she'll end up. Thud thud went the kunai as they sailed into the target dummies, the deadly gardening tools ending up where so many of their brethren were launched into before dematerializing in a shower of sparkly bits, with the accompanying sounds of course. The little girl who threw those kunai merely looked rather bored at a rather large jar, waiting for a few seconds until new kunai appeared with a burst of light. Letting out a rather unladylike groan as she grabbed the kunai and took a deep breath, shifting into a proper stance before throwing them again. Thud thud. Taking a step back, Neru couldn't help but look up and stare at the sky, the sun hanging in it still not having changed position. Still, if her Ka-chan is correct, and she almost always is, then she's in something called a pocket dimension or something where 1 hour is equal to a minute. It's a dimension, Naruto, and time moves faster in here. So 1 hour spent here equals 1 minute back in Konoha. Right, that's how you said it. Glaring at the skill screen beside her, Naru started muttering rather angrily to herself. Oh yes, let's just use the magic refilling jar to grind my throwing skills since I didn't have any practice yet. It's not like I'm wasting hours just throwing pointy things at boring targets. Throwing, 96/1000. Naru merely glared at the screen before throwing the kunai over her shoulder without watching, managing to hit a bird and killing it instantly. Throwing, processing. Throwing, 96001/1000. Luck +1. Ayawa. Are you kidding me? I can't take this anymore. We have to get in there and save Naru. Minato shouts to Jiraiya, who is sitting there rather calmly, all things considered. Still, since Itachi went off and set up several barriers to ensure privacy, and that spies wouldn't be able to do their spying thingies and the other Uchiha out of the count for the moment, it seems that it falls upon the gallant Toad Sage to calm down his currently hyperventilating apprentice. God help us all. Come on, Minato, I'm sure she'll be fine. It's only been 5 minutes. Besides, she's a crafty little bugger. It'll be okay, you'll see. Jiraiya says with his usual smile, not being too worried. Sure, she may at the most rank as a genin skill-wise, and that's being generous, but no mere genin could drop an ANBU with one hit. Sure, it was a sneaky, backstabbing hit in one of the most critical and sensitive spots of the male body, but who cares? Shinobi are supposed to be sneaky like that. Seeing as his apprentice is now properly taking everything into account to calculate the odds of Naru being okay. You're right, she'll be fine. I mean, how much trouble can she cause in about 6 minutes? Minato says with a forced laugh before his eyes land Shursui again. His calculations actually left out one very important variable. Naru was an Uzumaki, and the entire Elemental Nations is still filled with all kinds of tales about how they were the catalyst for all kinds of situations that range from dude, what happened last night, to why is there an eldritch being turning the ocean into ramen. We got to get her out of there. Who knows when the fabric of reality gets torn into pieces by her. Jiraiya screams frantically at Minato while dragging him back towards the teleportation seal. She might be gone for only 7 minutes. But an Uzumaki only needs one to bring about the apocalypse. Meanwhile, back in the pocket dimension, after finally reaching 100 in her throwing skills, our little blonde decided to do something productive. She completely wrecked the area with a few Shinra Tensei before plopping down in the nice, cool shade of a tree and grabbing a lunchbox from her inventory. To be fair, she has been training for 7 hours straight, which is quite impressive. So, relaxing and eating during her well-earned break, Naru pulled up the area map in order to see where she needs to go next. Though that is more or less redundant, seeing as there only is one path to follow and a weird glowy barrier suddenly jumps up to stop her if she goes deeper than 10 feet into the woods. Oh well, no choice but to follow the path, she thinks to herself as the now empty bento box disappears in a shower of lights. Getting up and stretching her arms above her head for a tad longer than is socially acceptable. Grinning as she wades into the foliage, she immediately crouches and tries to get as stealthily as possible to the next point, using her new throwing skills to take out the few mobs that spawn before they notice her. Though fun as it is at the start, Naru can't help but get more and more excited as she nears the next clearing that's filled with weapon racks. Scanning the area quicker than Anko would have approved with her eyes for traps, our crazy little blonde wastes no time in merrily skipping to the weapon collection, praying to God that there is some awesome loot here as well. Sighing at the antics of her daughter, Kagai can't help but look fondly as her little girl starts swinging around a wooden mace, trying to get a good feel for the weapon. Though judging by the way it slips out of her hands and falls on the floor. Nope. Is all that comes out of the red-eyed girl's mouth before she dismisses the heavy piece of wood and heads over to the next weapon. An axe about as large as herself this time, which she honestly doesn't fare any better with. And on it went, the little protagonist working her way throughout all weapon classes that there were. Axes, bows, staves, polearms, maces and clubs, hell even the katana didn't feel right in her hands, and she tried every kind of blade that there was. Sure, she could swing them around and thrust them, but they somehow felt lacking. As if her mind and body tried to tell her this wasn't the blade they wished to entrust their life and very being to. The only thing worth keeping were a nice pair of knives, but those honestly would be delegated to backup and stealth weapons. The blades were actually forged straight with sturdy leather acting as the grip, the form more reminiscent of the trench knives that bearded smoky dude uses. Wasn't he Sarajiji's son or something like that? We're getting off topic. Point is, the weapons that Naru feels most comfortable with are apparently those that aren't of the Elemental Nations. So, why can't she just leave yet? Did she miss something important here? On your right side, Naru-chan, there's still a weapons rack you haven't checked out yet. Turning to the side her Ka-chan told her to check out, and she didn't turn left first, not at all. Naru sees the wooden construct that's obviously in not so good shape. Compared to the sturdy, well-taken-care-of look of the others, this one looks as if it can barely hold up the weapons and could collapse on itself at any second now. Still, there seemed to be an odd sort of pull emanating from it, as if something was calling out to the young girl. It honestly reminded her of that weird feeling in the ground, beckoning her to follow it and to listen. Far too certain of herself and the source of the feeling, Nera lets herself drift along with the pull while ignoring all of the strange-looking swords, shields, and other weapons. Hang on, is that a sword as big as her Chuchan? Wow, and there's a hammer with a head as big as Chuji's torso, and over there is pulled out of her fawning over the exotic weapons that definitely aren't native to the elemental nations. Nera looks down to what she's holding. The hilt itself was wrapped in a simple dark leather and felt comfortable to hold, a strange ring connecting flowing out of the round guard and connecting the pommel with it. The blade itself was about 1.5 inches thick and seems to grow thinner and thinner as it neared the point of the blade, its tip ending in a V-shape. Time seemed to stop for a moment, a pale and see-through hand overlapping with Neru's for just the slightest moment. Following the spectral hand and its attached arm upwards, the little blonde stares rather stupefied right into a familiar set of red eyes, framed by pale white bangs. The spectre smiles and kisses the crown of Neru's head before it disappears and time resumes its course, message delivered. Confusing Neru's still incredulous face with her not understanding what the weapon is, instead of what the fuck just happened, Kaguya opens her mouth to explain what exactly her daughter is holding, only to change the words at the last moment. Dodge now, jumping to the right without asking why. Little Neru's faith in her mother is rewarded as she can feel the wind brushing past her face. The breeze was created by a large boar that seems to be as big as Neru, its head easily reaching the blonde's chest, its red eyes focused on the tiny little shit that killed so many of his brothers and sisters from the shadows. Well, he will make sure that no other boars will fall to this menace, or his name is not Tusk the Rampaging Boar. Kaguya grits her teeth as both she and Neru can see some sort of energy dome forming around the clearing, cutting off their escape. The mind that conquered the elemental nations quickly raced through variables and possibilities in order to come up with a way that will make sure her little girl will not perish here, quickly forming the basic framework of a plan. For now it's best that she sticks to those knives and fights a war of attrition with the beast. The sword might do much more damage, but we don't have time to teach her how to properly use it. The boar charges once again at Neru, who seems to stand there calmly. Right foot first, the girl's feet were shoulder-length apart, and the tip of her blade pointed straight at the incoming enemy. Grinning as Tusk decides to jump the last of the distance instead of running, Neru twists out of the way as she slashes with her sword, a long and thin gash appearing on her opponent's flank. Letting out an annoyed tisk-ing sound as the wound was just a scratch, Neru looks at the blade in her hand again. Right, rounded tips are for slashing, V-shaped for thrusting, she says to herself before looking at the boar again with a smirk. But damn, you really are slow. I do hope you're faster than that, because Magoo at his slowest is way faster, the blonde taunts her opponent. Judging by the way the boar starts breathing heavier and is actually starting to froth at the mouth, it seems to working though. Tusk can't believe the arrogance of this little shit. She's barely a child and yet she acts as if she owns the world. It's people like her that always find a new way to ruin the world for those it deems as lesser than itself. Charging at the darkly garbed human, Tusk lowers his head in order to ram the little demoness head on. May his tusks pierce that wretched little heart. Neru just grins as her right hand is already brimming with anticipation, chakra stored and ready as the flowers in her eyes bloom. Now all she need to do is wait for the right moment to strike. Giving Tusk the chance to squeal in defiance one final time, Neru utters 2 words that will spell her opponent's doom, her hand brought down as if squashing a bug. Shinra Tensei. The sudden wave of gravity forces Tusk to stop his charge, the poor thing rolling a few times as he can feel the force pushing him almost painfully so into the ground where he can't move. His legs broken underneath the combined stress of his charge and the invisible wall of power slammed into him. The squashed boar's last sight of this world is the blonde that killed his kin, ramming its sword right into his eye and brain. And like that, Neru won her first boss fight like a boss. Looking at the screen that popped up after the fight, Kaguya can't help but smile at the actions of her late granddaughter. Echoes of the past shape your skills for the future. Thrusting weapons plus 50. Novice fencer. Your skill with thrusting weapons increase at 130% and damage with all thrusting weapons is multiplied by 1, 2. Aren't you grateful your previous life is such a nice woman to help you out with your training? Rank 1 of 5. Back with the panicking idiots in charge of this village. Sweetie, do you know where Neru is? The academy is starting in about 10 minutes. Kushina asks her husband with fake cheeriness, her killing intent making most people present rather uncomfortable. Having dropped off both Hiruzen and Mito already, the red-headed mother then went looking for her husband and eldest daughter. Sure, the two of them goof off every now and then together, and she's happy that Minato and Neru get along, but he really should be setting a good example as both Hokage and father. Oh log, she's becoming the responsible one. Why the hell is she acting as the responsible parent? Meanwhile, Minato is already mentally scheduling an appointment with Shizen for his back as he gets ready to tell Kushina the truth. If he lies about it, she'll find out about it anyways and he'll end up sleeping on the crappy thing for 2 months instead of 1. Still, it has been over 40 minutes and Neru isn't back yet. Maybe he should. I'm right here, just did a quick wash up at the nearby creek. Neru says as she casually walks up to them, her face and neck still slightly damp. And right there, it was as if through divine intervention an age-old question most decent parents have was answered. Is it okay for me to pick a favorite amongst my children? If one of your children saves your ass like my little girl did, then yes, it should be acceptable. Minato thinks sagely to himself, the utter serenity on his face showing nothing of the overwhelming urge he has to hug his little princess while bawling in gratitude. Meanwhile, Kushina couldn't help but gape at what her daughter was wearing. And where did she get all those weapons? Morning, Mom, I already had the most awesome day ever. I mean, I managed to beat that Anbu with a single punch in the dick and got this kick-ass Haori for doing it. Nara says excitedly as she points to Shui, who is muttering depressed in a corner while drawing circles in the dirt, staring rather speechlessly at the silly way one of her husband's guard is acting. Did that actually happen? She asks both Minato and Itachi, who both merely nod. At the confirmation that it actually happened, she can't hold herself anymore and starts laughing uproariously, tears flowing down her face as she gasps for breath. Oh, forget the fucking academy. If she can already pull things like that off, there isn't too much Nara can learn there. Taking her sweet time to get herself under control again, Kushina watches as the little blonde and Itachi are talking about the strange sword that Naru is carrying. The Uchiha are openly interested in the accompanying fighting style. Still, they should be getting a move on. Naru, it's time for the academy. Get over here so I can shunsen you to it. Kushina yells. Yelling back okay, Naru waves goodbye at Itachi, hugs both Minato and Jiraiya before running towards her biological mother. Laying a hand on her daughter's shoulder, she can't help but laugh at her parting words for Shui. By numbnuts, don't forget your codpiece when on duty next time. The sound of that angered scream was oh so satisfying to both Uzumaki. Kushina and Naru arrived at the academy in whirlwind of leaves, the elder redhead fully expecting her little girl to throw up. If Mito and Hiruzen are nauseous after being transported with that technique, there will be no way her untrained daughter could actually handle the holy shit that was awesome. Can we do that again? Better yet, can you teach me that move? And it seems the little blonde is alright after all, much to Kushina's surprise. Hell, she even seems more excited than before. Note to self, kill Enko for teaching Naru's swear words, Kushina thinks to herself while corralling the now active little hellion into the academy. Ma, it's a pretty intensive technique, so maybe when you graduate, she says with that cheerful tone you try to use in order to mask your nervousness. Still, it seems to be the wrong thing to say as Nara's face suddenly grows neutral and she simply walks inside. If you don't want to have anything to do with me, then just come out and say it. Kushina's elder daughter scoffs at said mother as she walks silently into the academy, leaving a stunned Uzumaki matriarch standing in the middle of the grounds. Don't you think you were being a little harsh, Nara-chan? Kagaya chides her surrogate child softly, though there is no sternness in her voice, merely a sad acceptance. It's not the answer itself that hurts, rather the way it was said. It was the same tone that was used the last few times that Kushina used whenever she promised that she'd do something with Naru, only to leave the young girl waiting. Meh, we both knew that nothing would come out of it anyways, so why even bother? The young girl remarks in a resigned tone as she follows the quest marker on her minimap to her classroom. Taking in a deep breath once she finally stops in front of it, she reaches out to open the door, Nara-chan, only to be stopped by the quavering voice of her mother. Turning to face Kushina, our little protag can't help but feel a bit of remorse at the almost desperate look that's on Kushina's face. Seeing that her daughter is at least willing to hear her out, Kushina takes the last few steps forwards and kneels so she can hug her estranged daughter. It was heartbreaking that Nara's first reaction was for her body to stiffen instead of returning it. Do we really spend so little time together she's even surprised at me touching her? Kushina can't help but ponder. Still, other things need to be said first, before the damage is done. Nara-chan, I know I may have screwed up lots of times before, but I do love you with all my heart. You're my precious daughter, and no matter how long it takes or what kind of ordeals I need to go through, I will find a way to make it up to you. And I promise you on my word as an Uzumaki that we'll spend time together soon, okay? And to both mothers' relief, Nara finally returns the hug, albeit hesitantly. Still, it's a start both adult women present can't help but think. Still, there was one final thing to address. So, where did you get all that gear? You already look like a real kunoichi with it. Kushina asks with a grin, only now taking the time to properly appreciate the way her little girl pulled off her outfit. To her surprise, Nara grins as she starts listing. I got the greaves and vambraces because I managed to last about 15 minutes against Guy in a spar. The coat was for beating numbnuts, and I found the weapons in a field that had a really angry boar in it. I killed it though, so no problems on that end. The little blonde counts every item off with her fingers while Kushina can't help but grow more and more impressed with every achievement that her little girl already achieved. To the surprise of Naru, the redhead couldn't help but chuckle as she ruffled her eldest daughter's hair. Sounds like the academy will be a breeze for you then, won't it? She says with a proud smile before getting up again. Now then, you best get inside while I go talk to your daddy and Nei-chan to see if I can't wrestle a day or two in the week where I can train you. That seems to have been the right thing to say as Nara hugs Kushina out of her own volition while looking up with a smile. You promised, so you have to, she says cheerfully before opening the classroom door. See you later, Mom, she says with an adorable little wave before heading inside. Have fun, sweetie, and if you feel like trying to stab your classmates, at least make sure they absolutely deserve it first. Kushina yells her final piece of advice to her daughter before heading towards the Hokage Tower. Maybe she could get Naru interested in Fuinjutsu, seeing as either Mito or Hiruzen seem eager to try it out at the moment. Is this a line break? Is this just fantasy? Have fun, sweetie. And if you feel like trying to stab your classmates, at least make sure they absolutely deserve it first. Is the first thing the entire class hears as a grinning little blonde walks in, already armed to the teeth and wearing armor. The way Naru dressed and the cheerful advice that was shouted at the grinning girl was enough to scare most of the civilian kids and even a few of the clan children. Though it incensed others to try and assert dominance, as the alpha of the pack as it were, even with the two teachers watching. Ha, do you really think that walking in all dressed up like that actually makes you tough stuff, Blondie? You better think again before you get hurt. Everyone knows girls can't fight after all. Inuzuka Kiba yells out with much grandeur as he jumps on top of the desks, ignoring Akamaru's yips about bloody blondes or something. Though the boy did nearly shit his pants when his cheek felt rather hot after something grazed it. Touching his cheek with his fingers, the coppery smell is finally made clear as he can see some blood on his fingers. There must be quite the loud fly buzzing around in here. I do hope I hit it. Naru says with a sadistic grin as her eyes seem to peer straight into Kiba's soul. Ignoring Mizuki-sensei's murmur of "Oh God, not another Anko." While she keeps staring down the rowdy Inuzuka clan heir, Hana-chan refused the position because she wants to be a veterinarian instead of being held responsible for all the idiot things her hot-headed clan can get into. Said heir looks at the wall behind him where the kanai is dripping some of his blood on a napkin Chuji tossed over the napping Shikamaru's head. Looking back at the crazy blonde that threw an actual kanai at him, he couldn't help but yelp as the little terror is suddenly all in his face while crouching on his desk. Oh my, you seem to be bleeding. Irika-sensei, shouldn't Kiba be going to nurse's office with a cut like that? Our happily violent blonde asked the second teacher in the room with what appears to be genuine worry. It's official, all of the civilian cannon fodder and most of the clan kids are now afraid of the sheer, seemingly bipolar insanity that is Uzumaki Naru. Caught between hyphens, no escape from reality. Also yes, we will be keeping up this trend the entire chapter thanks to Zebra Lord 23. After sending Kiba to the school nurse with Mizuki, Irika takes advantage of the silence that seems to be looming over the classroom. Okay, ignoring this slight interruption, today we will be blah blah blah. You probably read thousands of variations before. Let's look instead at some of the reactions of both characters already introduced and the new ones at Naru's dynamic entry. Let's see, background characters 1 through 12 are pretty much the same, your standard gasps and exclamations of fear. Yamanaka Ino is also leaning more towards that side alongside with wondering if her daddy would be willing to see what's wrong with her fellow blonde. Haruno Sakura is mentally screaming as well, although she is wondering as well if she'll get as skilled as Naru, minus the insanity of course. Let's see what other rather generic reactions from characters with barely any development we can quickly press into this summary. Nope, can't think of anyone else. Let's get to the fun ones. I'm just a line break, nobody loves me. It's just a line break, from a lion family. Spare it its life, you monstrosity. Yes, I know Sakura got proper character development, but that's like way too late in canon MO. Let's start with the lazy genius. There's bound to be something interesting in those thoughts. Ugh, so troublesome. Why did that crazy blonde have to challenge the Inuzuka in such an extreme way? He'll certainly be trying to beat her so he can become the alpha of the class. Oh well, it has nothing to do with me, so I'll try and ignore it as long as possible. Women truly are troublesome. For those of you about to start a flame wars in the comments about me being misogynistic, I only have one thing to say anyways, on to the next one. And yes, that implies you're beneath my notice, bitches. Also that attitude be canon, yo. Maybe I should throw a few more napkins on his head, or get rid of the kanai. Well, she was nice the few times we talked, but she's gotten more violent it seems. Oh well, I'll just leave it to Shika to figure out if we should hang out with her, he'll know. I'm starting to see why Itachi and I warned me about her. Maybe she'll be a proper challenge instead of being a useless fangirl. While seemingly insane, her actions do make sense. Why? Because the Inuzuka also like to display dominance through more physical challenges. If anything, she merely answered the call of challenge. While the above thoughts are easy to discern as to who they belong to, let's now see what her siblings think of her actions. Dad and Mom should hear about this. If she already overreacts like this to simple taunting, who knows what she'll do when she actually gets angry or worse. Hiruzen can't help but think to himself, rather worried about his estranged sister that suddenly looks as if she's the heroine from a story. As for what Mito is thinking, well, that's slightly different than what her brother is currently pondering on. Pfft, I can throw kunai way better than she just did. I do want a coat like that though, maybe I can get one too if I ask Mom. Did I say a bit different? I meant very different. Still, there's one reaction we haven't seen yet. It's her. One adorable lavender-eyed girl thought to herself. Sure, normally she would have been worried and possibly quite scared of the almost casual violence Naru just inflicted on Kiba, but a little something that happened a few days ago did a lot to alleviate any kind of fear Hinata could have had of our probably psychotic and puny protag. Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Bismillah. No, we will not let you go, let him go. Ha ha ha, look at her cry. Isn't she supposed to be an almighty Hyuga? A young boy taunted as he was flanked by two cronies. Sure, normally they'd have already gotten their asses kicked by any other ninja kid, but that's why they picked on Hinata. Her shy and demure nature made her a wonderful target, and the fact that she's from one of the most prominent shinobi clans makes it all the better for the bullies. Normally, they'd go on a bit further until she ran away crying, but today seems to have different plans for them. Oh, just what do you three dickless bastards think you're doing? A rather frosty voice asked the kids from behind them. Turning around, they saw Naru, who wasn't very amused at all with their antics. Walking back home from her training with Enko Nei-chan, the young heroine decided to take a shortcut through the park, only to find three guys picking on an honestly adorable little girl in a rather large coat. Of course, she had to intervene. The three idiots of course had no idea what she had been up the past few days and only saw a blonde girl with creepy eyes. This has nothing to do with you, freak, get out of here, the leader says cockily, thinking that he and his friends cut a threatening figure, only to be rather confused by the little girl's snort. Now that's just fucking precious, you thinking you're a threat and all. What? She's still a rather impressionable 8-year-old, and the closest thing she has to an adult role model is a sadistic Tokubetsu jounen that doesn't hold back on the swearing in front of said impressionable little kid. Of course she's gonna pick up some of her mannerisms and vocabulary. Still, the three little shits find her amusement at their expense rather insulting, so they decide to resolve this situation in true meathead style. Get her! The boss shouts before all three rush at the cocky blonde. Hinata wants to help the girl, but fear paralyzes her, and she can only watch. Still, the event turned out to be something that would forever be engraved into the young heiress' mind. Nera simply smirks as she dodges all attempts of the three idiots, seemingly dancing around the flailing strikes aimed at her in a rather bored fashion. To be fair, she is rather used to run from a giant snake while his summoner pelts her with kunai and senban, so this is almost relaxing in comparison. Surprisingly enough, the mooks last about 2 minutes before the assault stops. The three boys are panting heavily while they look at Nera with anger. Said girl doesn't even look winded and giggles rather ominously as she cocks back her fist. My turn, she sings out before socking one of them straight in the face, the poor boy flying a few feet in the air before skidding on his back even further. An audible crack was heard and it seems the kid's nose was broken. This breaks the morale of the other two and they run away, screaming about a demon. That's right, run you little bitches. Naru shouts at them with a victorious grin before turning back at the still stunned Hinata. Smiling a lot friendlier at the frightened girl, Naru bounces over to her side. You okay there? Need any help getting up? The blonde asks in a soft voice, taking care not to startle the most adorable girl she's honestly ever seen. Hinata shakes her head but still doesn't reply or move. Naru simply chuckles as she looks the girl over. Well, you don't look hurt, so that's good. Oh yeah, I'm Uzumaki Naru. Who are you? She asks with a sunny grin, washing away the other girl's worries without even trying. Hyuga Hinata, and nice to meet you. Hinata introduces herself with a polite bow, her eyes closed shut as she believes she's making a fool of herself. Imagine her surprise when she can feel two arms getting wrapped around as she's being pulled into a hug. Oh my god, you're so adorable! Naru squeals out as she rubs her face against Hinata's. That's it, I'ma escort you home and make sure those fucking idiots won't bother you again. Naru decides for the both of them as she drags the lavender-eyed girl towards the clan district, the Hyuga's heiress cheeks feeling and looking as if they were aflame. Still, the only thing brighter was the smile on her face as she pointed Naru into the right direction of her home. Beelzebub has a line break put aside for me. It's a shame that the moment Hinata heard the gates of the compound shut behind her, she wasn't allowed to leave the premises until it was time for the academy. Still, what luck she has that she's in the same class as the one who saved her. Oh, are you awake? The others already went ahead for taijutsu practice outside. A familiar voice called out to Hinata, snapping her out of her flashback. Turning to see the blonde girl dominating her thoughts the past few days, Hinata can't help but start blushing fiercely as Naru's face is only a few inches away from her. Though it seems to do the trick as bloody red eyes suddenly widen in recognition. Ah, you're that girl from the park a few days ago. Those assholes didn't bother you again, did they? Naru asks worriedly, checking the timid girl for any injuries. Relaxing once the blushing girl shakes her head, Naru leans back in the chair she seated herself in. Anyways, Mizuki-sensei told me to take you outside once I snapped you out of whatever trance you were in, so let's go. Kiba demanded a proper match in the ring and I'ma kick his feral ass. The blonde says rather excited as she once again grabs Hinata's hand and drags her along to their next destination. And to be honest, Hinata can't help but enjoy the comforting warmth that seems to be holding hers. Mizuki just sighed as he leaned back against the wall of the academy, keeping an eye on the kids from behind them as Arukia explained to them just how the taijutsu sessions would work. Holding back a more audible sigh, the Nara kid looked way too sympathetic to him at the moment. While subtly shuffling to the shade of the nearest tree, the young sensei looks to the side as he can hear the crystal-clear tapping of kitty feet on the floor from above and behind him. Turning around and taking a few steps back, he looks up curiously, enhancing his hearing with chakra, as he keeps his eyes on the open window of the second floor, where their classroom just happened to be situated. "Oh, you sure that we should do this? Hey, Zuki-sensei said that I should get you to the training ground out back as fast as possible. This is just a shortcut, BB, but don't worry, I'll carry you and do the hard work. We can just catch you up on the correct form and techniques later." Wait, Naruto. The last word was screamed loud enough that Irika and the kids got distracted as well, looking as to where the scream came from, with Irika palming a kunai in case there was trouble. Still, it turned out to not be needed at all, as in all her glory, a laughing Uzumaki Naru jumped out of the window while carrying a screaming Hyuga heiress in her arms. Sailing across the heads of her class and teacher, the blonde landed in the middle of the sparring circle, with the poor traumatized passenger still safely in her arms. Putting Hinata down, Naru quickly supports her newest friend as she wobbles onto her feet. Feeling the girl lean into her body, our red-eyed crazy girl looks around before waving at Mizuki with a too big smile. "Hiya, Zuki-sensei. I brought Naruto-chan just like you asked," she chirped, looking a bit too proud at her overly dramatic entrance. Sighing once again, his quiet troublesome was accompanied by the weary nod of Shikamaru. Still, seeing as Irika's brain is still rebooting, it's probably up to him to reproach the blonde Minianko. "And you jumped through the window because?" he asked the blonde little terror, who honest to God apparently didn't know what was wrong with jumping through windows. Most of the ninja that go to daddy's office enter and leave through the window. We even put a little mat there where they can wipe off their sandals," Naru says as she cocks her head slightly to the side, looking like a confused puppy. "Ninja didn't use the windows as their primary means to leave and enter rooms? Huh, that's actually quite the shocker." Thankfully Naru can't see what happens inside of her head, or she'd have seen Kagaya facepalm rather undignified. "Only the widows do that. Most civil people use the door when they need to enter or exit buildings," Mizuki explains with a sigh. "Being civil sounds boring then. Jumping through windows is pretty awesome and fun. Sage, give this teacher patience, for if he is given strength he'll probably get killed for choking the little blonde. Why can't he just find a way to why? Hello there, terrified little heiress." "Oh, I don't think Hinata-san enjoyed it that much," Mizuki says with a grin, pointing at the trembling girl still in Naru's arms. Red eyes widening in realization, Naru starts talking softly to Hinata, not wanting to startle the trembling girl anymore. Which honestly surprised Mizuki and the now recovered Irika, especially with the way Naru was positioned. Her back was to everyone else while she blocked Hinata's view to them, ensuring that the lavender-eyed girl's attention was solely on her. Still, it seemed to work as Hinata slowly opened her eyes and relaxed. Like coaxing a little kitten out of hiding. Irika couldn't help but compare Hinata's behavior to an adorable little feline. Still, something was bound to happen to shatter the almost adorable and hushed scene in front of the class. "Old woman, are you coming into this ring so I can show you your proper place or what? Better yet, why don't you leave fighting to the boys and go make me a sandwich?" Kiba yells arrogantly, mimicking his recently disappeared father's attitude towards women. Still, the words did manage to get a rise out of both Naru and all of the other females in the class. The only thing everyone could see was Naru's shoulders tensing before she turned around, her face a neutral mask while her eyes held repressed, righteous fury. "Nada-chan, you gonna be okay?" the blonde asks her new friend. Before Hinata could reply, however, Ino decided that this was the best moment to stride up to her fellow blonde with all of the other girls trailing behind her. Raising an eyebrow at the sudden approach of all the fangirls plus Sakura and Mito, Naru can't help but wonder what they want. "Listen, Naru, most of us here don't like you and think you're weird." Ino starts talking, pretty much saying out loud what everybody already knew. But the tone suddenly shifted as the Yamanaka heiress placed her hands on Naru's shoulders. "That being said, kick that whiny mutt's ass into next month, and show him you don't mess with girls." Ino yells into Naru's face, whose second eyebrow now joined the first one up there in surprise as all the girls start to shout and cheer. Oh well, who is she but a simple red-eyed maiden that performs her role in this play that we call life? Walking to the ring where Kiba is waiting for her, and everyone is ignoring Irika, who is trying to get order to reign again. "You focus on the fight, I'll see that Hinata doesn't get another panic attack," Mito says softly as her sister passes her, the tone in which the message is conveyed something that neither of them can really place. "Thanks, Mito," is all Naru says as she slows down just long enough to utter those words. Yet it seems more than enough as Mito dives headfirst into the horde of fellow female classmates, shouting and making some breathing room around Hinata. Striding into the circle of the floor, it seems that Irika has given up on stopping the match. Better that they do it here under supervision than somewhere remote where it can all end disastrously. "Alright, both of you make the seal of confrontation." Irika tries to keep things going right. Still it seems for naught as both Kiba and Naru instead flip each other off. It seems all the newly minted teacher can do is sigh and begin the match. Kiba wastes no time and charges in headfirst at Naru, his hand already set in a claw so he can slash his opponent. All Naru does is smirk and let the hand come closer and closer until leaning to the side at the last possible moment, and sticking her foot out. Of course, Kiba can't stop his momentum and trips over it, falling flat on his face before tumbling a few feet forwards. The young Inuzuka pushes himself up with a growl and turns to face the smirking blonde again. Lucky shot, is all he says before running straight at Naru again, his arm cocked back in order to punch that smirk straight off of the Kage kid's face. Which was quite honestly a rather big mistake. Naru sidesteps the punch and grabs Kiba's arm, using the boy's momentum against him as she throws the boy over his shoulder and kicks him straight in the face while he's airborne. Landing once again at the edge of the ring, Kiba pushes himself up with a growl while the girls are cheering louder with every hit he takes. Even that shy little Hyuga is looking in awe at that blonde little idiot. Getting up for the third time already in such a short span, Kiba once again opened his mouth and did something he really shouldn't have. I was going to take it easy on you, but I changed my mind. I'm gonna beat you up and turn you into my bitch. And then I'll do the same to that girl you're dragging around. As expected of such a rather foul declaration, though it is still rather tame by Inuzuka standards, all of the girls begin shouting and booing while a few of the boys start laughing and jeering at the blonde they're starting to both hate and fear. Irika is about to step in but Mizuki stops him, merely nodding his head towards Naru's direction. Said girl stood still with a neutral expression on her face, hair covering her eyes. Thinking of this as a sign of submission, Kiba presses on. What, too scared to say something? Guess you finally learned your PLA. His breath is stuck in his throat as suddenly some kind of pressure seems to paralyze him, all of the children stunned into silence as well. Nara slowly lifted her head while gazing all the while at her opponent with that same mask-like visage, although there is one glaring difference now. Her eyes are blazing with fury and a promise of suffering as they bore into Kiba's, the young boy's leg shaking as he hyperventilates underneath the pressure of Nara's killing intent. Everyone looks on in a morbid sense of curiosity as the blonde finally starts moving, walking towards the Inuzuka heir in an almost lazy fashion with her head cocked slightly to the side. Oh, please do keep barking, little doggy. It'll help me decide if I'm gonna use your blood to paint my fingernails with, she says in a casual tone, stopping right in front of the trembling boy. Waiting a few seconds in order to see if Kiba will reply, she merely sighs in resignation and looks almost disappointed. After all that smack-talking the haughty heir did, she was actually getting really hyped up for the fight. Oh well, nothing that can be done about it now. Taking in a deep breath, she cocks her head back and with a grunt smashes her forehead once again into Kiba's nose. The boy staggers back a few steps as his hands fly to his now bleeding nose, the pain being more than enough in order to get him moving again. Still, it's too late for him as Naru steps on his bent leg and uses it to launch herself in the air, kicking Kiba once again in the side of his head and sending him out of the ring. Everyone just stares dumbly at the scene before Irika breaks the spell by announcing the quite obvious results winner, Uzumaki Naru. Though do try and keep the excessive violence to a minimum next time, he yells at the girl who is merely cleaning her ear with her pinky. Hey, if he insists on talking smack in order to piss people off, he better be ready to deal with the consequences, she says in a rather uncaring tone before walking out of the ring. Striding back towards Hinata, Naru's composure fades and guilt sets in as she sees the Hyuga heiress staring at her in disappointment and the slightest bits of fear. Was she really that scary? Did you have to go that far? Hinata asks her friend, hoping that the blonde wouldn't be letting out any killing intent again with that question. Though to the surprise of nearly everyone, Nara blushes and starts stammering, her eyes fixed on the tree in the courtyard and away from everyone. Oh come on, he called you a bitch. And you know, since we're friends and all, I just couldn't let him get away with stuff like that, you know? She nearly yells before she starts muttering about how stupid boys shouldn't question the awesomeness of both her and her friends. To the side, Mito approached the still prone form of Kiba and starts poking it with a stick. Getting no response, she grins as she pulls out a marker and starts doodling on the boy's face while everyone is still focused on her sister and the unfolding drama. At least until they heard two people cheering out of the window. Looking up at the second-floor window, everyone quickly backs up as a boy a year older than them jumps out of it and lands in a superhero pose, the girl with her hair in two buns merely sighing and turning away from the room again. Yash, I see that Guy-sensei did not lie about your flames of youth at all. It'd be my honor to proclaim you my eternal rival. The black-haired boy with very bushy eyebrows yells out before smiling a very familiar Colgate smile, while giving the red-eyed blonde a thumbs up. It does take a few seconds until she finally realizes where she saw that kind of behavior before. So you're the apprentice of the bushy-eyebrow dude in spandex? Nice to meet ya. Nara says with a grin as she eyes the boy who is honestly already starting to look like his teacher, and even seems to act like him. So how long's he been training you? Nara asks curiously. At this question the overly eager boy's smile even seems to shine strong enough that everyone wishes they had a pair of sunglasses like Shino does. He found right after your match with him and decided to make me, Rock Lee, his disciple. So since yesterday afternoon then? Nara asks with a sweat drop rolling down her head. Geez, just how easily did this kid get influenced by his teacher? Pot, meat kettle. It seems you have quite a bit in common. What was that supposed to mean? Never mind, Bushy Jr. seems to be wanting her attention for something. So, what say you? Will you be my eternal rival? He asks with a hopeful glimmer in his eyes. Wait, that means basically that we'll train as hard as we can in order to beat each other, right? Nero asks rather confused. That is correct. And we'll try to one-up each other in almost everything we can think of while pushing ourselves beyond our limits? Right, once again. Why not? Sounds like fun. Nero says with a shrug before squeaking in both pain and surprise as she is being held in an almost literally bone-crushing hug. Sensational. I will immediately ask Guy-sensei to double, no triple my training so that I might be a worthy challenge for you, my rival. I shall get on to that right this instant. Lee screams before running right through the wooden wall surrounding the academy, a quite persistent Yuewith trailing behind him. And honestly, can you blame everyone present just staring at the boy-shaped hole in the wall while wondering just how to react? Well, that was a thing. Ino comments offhandedly, and that is enough to break the spell. Kiba is dragged to the office once again by Mizuki, who is considering to bring alcohol to school starting tomorrow. Iruka calls the next students into the sparring ring and Neri just seats herself in the shade of a tree with a sigh and closes her eyes for a bit. She does open them when she feels a hand gripping hers. Looking up, she sees a madly blushing Hinata looking into her lap while their fingers are intertwined. Thank you for a few days ago. And earlier as well. She stammers out softly. Still, Nera heard it just fine and gives the pale hand cradled in hers a gentle squeeze in order to reassure the heiress. Hearing someone sit beside her, Nera turns her head in order to see Abirame Shino, who is muttering to a bug. So, how does that even work? Nera asks curiously. Shino looks at the young girl who blurted out that question. What exactly do you not understand, Uzumaki-san? Shino asks politely, wondering when exactly the usual reaction to his Kekiai Genkai. Where the fuck do you keep all those bugs in your body? I know that you guys get a hive implanted and stuff, but where exactly do you keep the bugs and how the hell do you let them fly out of your arms and such? Also, do you like speak bug or is there some other crazy way you guys communicate with them? The eldest Uzumaki daughter fires question after question at the Abirame heir who can barely keep up. Still, if she is truly curious about his clan's abilities and techniques, then he'll oblige and answer them, only the parts that aren't secret, of course. After the taijutsu beatdown that happened between Neru and Kiba, the day was almost blissfully quiet, the little blonde terror of insanity distracted by talking to her two new friends while Sasuke silently inserted himself into the group and basically used them as a fangirl-repelling barrier. The setup itself was simple but genius. He sat in the uppermost corner next to the window, puts him close next to a possible exit when needed, with Shino next to him. Since none of the girls bar Neru and Hinata wanted to be anywhere near him, it also ensured that they'd be far enough for him to focus on the lessons. He also didn't have to worry about the braver of those ditzy girls trying to take the seat in front of him, since those two seats were occupied by Neru and Hinata. He did confess from the start his intentions, seeing as the thrashing Kiba received only reinforced the warning his brother gave about the blonde. Shino and Hinata immediately accepted his apologies, but the red-eyed girl kept staring at him for a few seconds with that blank face of hers. Still, after a few seconds she shrugged and reserved the rights to kick the ass of any idiot trying to come close without any of them agreeing. So with a fangirl-repelling barrier in place and strong possible friends surrounding him, Uchiha Sasuke couldn't help but let a little smile slip out. Maybe the academy won't be that bad. Possibly the earliest line break in a chapter yet. The final bell finally rung after what seemed an eternity, most kids either groaning along or letting out little sighs of relief. Most of the kids already tried to get out of the classroom as fast as possible, already having formed cliques with like-minded children. One such clique, however, stayed in their seats after noticing how Nera kept looking at them and muttering below her breath before a while, until sometime during the afternoon she just started giggling while passing notes to each of them. The message on it simple, yet perplexing. After school meeting in Daddy's office. Awesomeness guaranteed. Putting aside the fact that the blonde protag is certain enough that the Hokage will allow his craziest of progeny to just hold an impromptu meeting like that in his office while working, they couldn't help but feel trepidation at the awesomeness guaranteed part. The crazy girl just jumped from a second-floor window while carrying someone else in her arms, and she thought that was normal. Who knows what the hell will happen with her definition of awesomeness? Still feeling no reason to not trust their friend, and in Sasuke's case, trying to find out if it'll help him get stronger, the three of them follow the humming blonde with trepidation as she skips towards the Hokage tower. Still, it's remarkably easy how the Yandame's daughter just ignores security and the secretary as she heads right into said leader's office. Having no choice but to go after their fearless leader, Hinata at least manages to placate the people they passed somewhat by apologizing to them. Sure, they're already used to the crazy girl storming through here as if she owns the place, but it's nice to see that at least one of her friends has manners. Inside the stormed office, Minato can't help but sigh fondly as he sees his daughter storming like usual, though he is rather interested in the extras she brought along. The heirs to the Hyuga and Abirame clan, along with Fugaku's youngest son. What did she do in order to have them follow her? Minato couldn't help but ponder as he waited for his daughter to explain this current invasion of his workspace. Knowing his little sunshine, he won't have to wait long though. Hi Daddy, thought you shoulda get caught up on me spending the last 2 days in a pocket dimension after using that teleport matrix. I know it looked like I was only gone for like an hour or so, but that was because of time dilation. Neru's unbelievable spiel ends up becoming a question as she tries to pronounce dilation correctly. Still, shrugging off both her faulty pronunciation and the rather gobsmacked looks by everyone who heard what the reincarnated blonde just said with that ever-present smile on her face. Taking the rather awkward silence as the cue to continue talking again, the red-eyed girl decides to do that. Anyways, we gotta head back to the training ground that we visited this morning and activate the seals so that we can go to the town of fire. Then while you are getting access for all shinobi in Konoha, I must start a guild with Nada-chan, Shino and the broody one. Neru just rambles along while pulling her father out of her seat. The yandere just lets his daughter do that as his mind is trying to reboot. Neru's friends follow as well, together with the ANBU escort hidden in the shadows. Finally figuring out that common sense won't help him much in this scenario, the Hokage instead does his best to try and treat this as if it's yet another game that he played when he was a kid. So what kind of place is this town of fire then? He asks curiously, stunning the others following the blonde duo about how cool he seems to be about this. Well, it's kinda like a place where you can both buy and craft all kinds of things you need for adventures before heading to these portal thingies that let you go on an adventure or mission. It's pretty cool, and they even got houses there for sale. There are also these suits of armor that move on their own and keep the pace, and they're like super strong. The blonde girl starts rambling excitedly as they head towards the training ground, the scene she paints sounding more and more as if it belongs in a fantasy novel instead of the real world. The kids accompanying them get more and more excited at the idea of the place existing while the ANBU and Minato are more and more worried about the place itself. I see, and this place exists in a pocket dimension where time moves faster than out here? Minato asks his daughter, doing his utmost best to not turn this into an interrogation. Neru just shrugs as the next few words coming out of her mouth didn't clear anything up it did during the tutorial and when I first entered the town, but now it should be the same as out here. I think it was so that I could take my time to learn everything without losing too much time. And with that mindfuck of a sentence, she just pretty much lost her classmates, while the adults needed a moment to process what was said. To summarize, you found a way to transport to a place where you can train? Said place also is where you spent 2 days while not even an hour passed here, correct? Shino summarized the long and hard-to-follow babbling that Neru calls an explanation. Looking back with a large grin at Shino, the youngest blonde merely nods. Aye, that about sums it up, she says gratefully. Maybe now people could finally get on with the conversation. So, what did you learn? Sasuke couldn't help but ask rather eagerly. Any place that could teach him things that allowed him to catch up to his big brother was okay in his book. Turning around so that she was walking backwards now, Neru starts listing all of the things and skills that she started learning. Let's see, I learned how to fight with my rapiers and knives, how to throw kunai, a taijutsu manual written by this awesome woman named Tex which I used to kick Kiba's ass. Then I also learned how to walk on trees and walls, lockpicking, trap making, sneaking around and infiltrating places, first aid, fishing, cooking above a campfire and also how to make my own kunai. The coolest part is that I can learn how to make new weapons since my skill is high enough after grinding that skill with making kunai over and over. Got like 5,000 or so of them now, Neru says before looking down confused. Weirdest thing though, they like all fit into my thigh pouch, she says completely flummoxed while looking down at said pouch. Noticing the incredulous stares she receives from her current companions, Neru merely unhooks her kunai pouch and turns it around with the intention of letting its contents fall to the floor. Watching a seemingly endless torrent of sharp and pointy things fall out of that tiny sewn container, people stopped and gaped in both awe and fear as a literal of kunai started forming right next to the middle Uzumaki child, the pile of fallen kunai slowly reaching her waist before she decides that it serves as enough of an example. Closing and reattaching the pouch to her right leg again, the girl snaps her fingers before walking towards the training grounds again. The pile of crafted throwing projectiles disappears with a bright flash and doesn't even leave behind a hint of ever being materialized by a little girl that likes to fuck with the fabric of reality. After rebooting their brains in order to process that latest bit of mindfuckery, Neru once again leads her entourage to the training ground she and her father visited that morning. Pushing everyone into the rather large circle, and herding the ANBU into it as well, Neru doesn't give anyone time to mentally prepare themselves as they are teleported to this new town. Teleport gate open, town of fire. Realistic line break for victims of mindfucking little girls. Also, I'd love it if someone could make some fan art of Neru that I could use as the cover of this story. I suck at drawing, so I'd love if someone were willing to do it. A bright flash opened up as Neru jumped out of it, daintily landing on her feet and taking a few steps forward before turning around with a grin and a simple command on her lips. Start recording, she says while looking at the pulsing tear she just exited. She didn't have to wait long for the entertainment to arrive though, as in a stumbling heap everyone fell out of the breach in the fabric of reality. Giggling at the chaos that she just unleashed by merely pushing everyone in without giving them any warning, Neru just keeps filming the almost cartoonish way everyone falls on top of each other. Taking a step forward and holding out her arm, she just chuckles as she quickly grabs and pulls Hinata out of the way of a screaming Sasuke and Shursui. Steadying the shy girl next to her, both of them watch stupefied at the chaos that the girl brought forth while enjoying the commentary. Get off, you're crushing me with your fat ass. I'ma fucking kill that midget. That's twice she fucked with me today. Whose foot is that in my back? Naru, I'm so gonna get you back when I get out of here. Laughing at the misery her dad, Sasuke and the ANBU were in, Naru couldn't help but grin and wave at them while enjoying the chaos around her. You Naru-san? Hinata stutters from in her arms, Naru rather comfortable with holding the lavender-eyed girl this close. Looking down with a gentle smile, it seems to give the Hyuga heiress enough courage to continue her line of questioning. Why did you pull me out of the way while letting the others fall on top of each other? Hinata asks meekly before seemingly trying to hide her head in the collar of her hoodie. Naru's smile simply shifts from gentle to teasing as she points at the pile of men trying to untangle. Because I now have two ANBUs and my dad in an awkward and hilarious position that I am recording in case I need blackmail later? Besides, they're the elite shinobi of our village, so shouldn't they be able to properly deal with shit like this? Anyways, Sasuke's a dick and stuff like this will make sure he won't end up like numbnuts and Shino. At this, Naru actually had to pause and stare intently at the writhing pile. Where is Shino? She asks more to herself than Hinata. She didn't mean for him to get caught up in this stuff as well. Right here, and thank you for looking out for me. The monotone voice she got used to over the day comes from behind her. Even on her deathbed, Uzumaki Naru would insist that, contrary to the others there and the video evidence, she did not scream like a 5-year-old girl while jumping into Hinata's arms. Still, it would only be the first of many times where our protagonist wondered just how in the 7 hells Shino managed to sneak up on her. This line break is on fire. This line break is on fire. After getting everyone up again, the Fellowship of the Crystal, TM pending, followed Naru through the tun, looking around at how boringly normal it seemed. The log cabins were made with the surrounding trees, the stalls and shops were like those in Konoha, and the people were the same as the cities in their own home did. The only real variations were some familiar-looking ceiling matrices on raised stone dais, and the huge stone circles in the distance that have some kind of creepy purple energy swirling inside of them. The portals must be the things that allow you to train and do missions in those pocket dimensions, but what are the matrices for? Minato asks his daughter while smiling at her, thinking that once again he's right as always when not arguing with his wife, that is. To his surprise though, Naru merely snorts as she keeps on walking. Those ain't for getting to instances and missions, they connect to other places like these in the elemental nations. The only way for you to use those is if one of our ninja gets to another town and unlocks the transporter gate from their side. Only then can we use them. And those matrices just allow you to teleport from one district to the other in town. She explains with a smirk while looking back. Laughing at the stupefied face her father is pulling, she keeps leading them to the town square where both of their objectives are at the moment. Wait, isn't there something she needs to tell about those portals as well? Mayhaps it's best to tell him about the IFF system just in case. Her Ka-chan advised the girl from her mindscape while petting one of the rabbits that seemed to be a permanent fixture now. Oh yeah, before I forget, we can only link to either allied or neutral towns. So we can't get to the ones in IWA and Kumo unless we find the entrance, get a large enough army there to kick ass and take it over all without alerting the hidden village in that country. Naru explains as they finally get to the square. The square itself wasn't that much really, just a large field of dirt with a simple fountain in the middle and 2 large buildings dominating a third of the open space. Right, to the left is the town hall where we both need to be, and to the right is the hunting lodge, where you can accept quests, go into dungeons, etc., etc. Now let's head inside. The sooner we're done here, the sooner we're finished with the prologue. How the author managed to turn it into a 10-chapter block of text I'll never know. Naru angrily muttered as she stalked to the town hall, the 2-floor building with a little tower on top of it just as unassuming as the rest of the little town. Once the rest of the group followed her inside, they saw Naru already talking with the receptionist while grinning, the stack of bills in her hand a clear indication of her sudden good mood. Walking up towards the desk, Minato quickly puts on his polite smile as his little girl and the man behind the desk stop talking. Good afternoon, I was told that I was to come here for some reason by my eldest daughter. The yandere asks politely as he's now firmly in Hokage mode. The receptionist with the traditional boring NPC look merely smiles and gets up. Yes, of course, our mayor would love to negotiate with you about how many of your forces would be allowed to register at the hunting lodge. Seeing as our little village is rather humble, we can't support too many people trudging through here for work, he says in that bland polite tone most people like to use when talking to others from behind their desk. Rising up from his seat, he bids the most powerful man in the pocket dimension to follow him, while ignoring the 2 guards trailing dutifully after him. While Hinata, Shino and Sasuke are now rather nervous to be left alone in a strange place, it seems that Naru has other problems at hand. Was it the 3rd door on the left or the on the right that holds the guild registration? She ponders loudly. Oh yeah, there was something else she needed to do for it first. Party screen, invitations for Hyuga Hinata, Aburame Shino and Uchiha Sasuke. Naru commands seemingly nothing. It only takes a few seconds for a blue screen to appear in front of the 3 called out names. Uzumaki Yasha, Naru has invited you to join her party, accept/refuse. I'll be honest, I dragged you 3 along because you 3 were the most likely to go along with my plan, and for some reason I find myself wanting to get to know you guys. So yeah, I won't hold it against you if you refuse and find others that do want to help me create the guild. But I still really kinda hope we can make one today. Nera finishes her nervous rambling as she twirls one of her locks around her finger. No one says anything and the kids look nervously at each other, and the screens floating in front of them. So if I join, I'll get access to actual missions and combat? Sasuke asks with an eager tone of voice. Nera just shrugs and looks at the raven-haired boy that seems so familiar for some reason. Well, outside of actually becoming a shinobi and doing missions, this will be the most realistic experience available to you. She admits while Shino and Hinata keep thinking it over. There is one thing that needs to be clarified before one of them decides though. What exactly is this guild, Nera-san? Shino asks politely, his sunglasses lowered so his intense brown eyes stare straight into Nera's red ones. The question seems to change something within her as the tension leaves her body and she stands up ramrod straight. A guild is usually made up of people with a common goal, but I want mine to be something different. I want it to be a promise. She states, certain of herself. What kind of promise? Hinata asks quietly, the sheer aura that Nera seems to emanate giving her courage. Easy, a promise that we will stand side by side no matter what. A promise that we will have each other's back and help one another to reach their goals and dream. No matter how hard it'll be or long it'll take, I want everyone in my guild to aid one another like a family would. She mutters the last few words softly, yet the others still hear it. Feeling the three of them stare at her, Nera starts blushing and quickly turns around, embarrassed that she said way more than she actually wanted. And anyways, it's your choice if you want to join or not. Just don't take too long deciding, please. While silence reigned and the three invited children look at one another with the fourth one admiring the walls and floor, Kagaya couldn't help but worry for her surrogate daughter. That speech wasn't made fully by Neru. The intent was hers, but the words and phrasing she used were all Yasha. Is this merely experience of a past life helping her out, or is it something more? Before she could ponder any more on the conundrum in front of her, her train of thought was disrupted by something appearing in front of them. Hyuga Hinata has accepted your invitation. Aburaim Shino has accepted your invitation. Uchiha Sasuke has accepted your invitation. For convincing people who are basically strangers to form a guild with you, you get plus 30 charisma. Skill unlocked. Speech 57 out of 1000. Facing her newest guild members with a grin, Nera can't help but let out an excited whoop. Fuck yeah, this is gonna be awesome. As soon as we can come up with a name, that is. Time seemed to fly by after Nera managed to form a guild, life going on as always, yet seemingly halting during a few precious moments all would later look back on with various degrees of fondness, or horror depending on who you were. Still, while most people in the future would only remember the grand and outrageous parts of the Red Queen's tale, we at the very least get to take a look at more innocent and intimate moments that nonetheless help them shape into becoming the legends they would be hailed as later. Let's get to it then, shall we? Who knows what we might see? Wow, you're a natural at calligraphy, Nera-chan. I remember it taking me ages for me to get it down. Kushina praises her elder daughter, secretly happy herself that they'll be able to get on with the more interesting parts of Fuinjutsu sooner rather than later. Nera just smiles bashfully, not knowing how she could explain to Kushina that she practiced every night in her mindscape together with Ka-chan so that the redhead would be proud of her. She can't help but feel that the praise is more an exclamation of the Uzumaki matriarch's surprise than genuinely offering kind words to her daughter. Oh well, that'll change once they spend more time together, right? What was the Shodai Hokage most famous for? Enko asked her apprentice as she took a saban from a tray, this one laced with a paralyzing toxin that would cause hellish pain to the one subjected to it. You mean besides founding our ninja village, creating the shinobi system we still employ to this day, and being stupid enough to hunt giant ethereal spirits that are sentient chakra given form? Mostly the fact he could grow wood wherever and whenever he wanted, coupled with his seemingly endless stamina. Nera says with a smirk and waggling eyebrows, observing her, now official, master as she stabs the saban right into the artery of a spy they caught. Not that I'm against spending time with you, but why exactly am in the TNI department with you, Inigo? Nera asks curiously, the gagged man next to them suddenly jerking around in his bindings as he silently screams in sheer agony. Enko just looks up at Nera with a smile. First things first, while your answer is correct, you should watch your phrasing. That sex joke was way too obvious. And as for why you're in my humble office, well, sooner or later you're gonna get into situations that either force you to interrogate someone or where the enemy tortures you for intel. So me, being the genius that I am, decided to combine both of my current jobs and give you a bit of a heads up as to what you can expect. Enko says sagely, rubbing her chin as if to underline the wisdom of her actions. Is that why I'm tied to this chair as well? Yep, and if you manage to get out of those bindings in less than 10 minutes we'll go get some dango. Hi Ba-chan! A peppy voice shouts while slamming open the door of Tsunade's office. The owner of said office merely sighs as she levels a stare at the blonde menace that is one of her goddaughters, ignoring the bewildered pink-haired girl that was obviously dragged along. Shouldn't you be at the academy, brat? The last Senju asks wearily, knowing that it is a question asked in vain. Well, I was, until I found a solution to your problems. I mean, you were always complaining about how ninja these days don't have either the chakra precision or knowledge to become a proper medic, right? So then, seeing that Sakura-chan remembers everything that she reads and that she can do all the chakra exercises on the first try, I thought that you could maybe teach her how to become the next you. Naru rants while Sakura just gapes at the crazy blonde that apparently forced her to skip school just to try and get her an apprenticeship with one of the Sannin. This day could not get any weirder for the civilian girl, said Sannin, however, took a moment to mull things over. While the deranged little Uzumaki spawn often does things that no one but her can truly grasp the motivations behind, it does end up for the better if one looks underneath the underneath. Besides, the tyke has a point that if she gets another apprentice at an academy student's age, she could ensure that said student meets her standards. Yes, this could actually work out. You, Pinky. I trust you don't have any issue with me taking you on as an apprentice? She asks Sakura. Said girl's eyes just widen in surprise and joy as she shakes her head, not trusting her voice at the moment. She, a civilian girl, was going to get personal training by the last of the Senju. Good, I will give you a grace period of a month in which I will judge whether you will become my next apprentice or not. Either way, I will only accept your very best effort. Now get back to school, both of you. She shouts that last sentence at the two girls, who quickly scamper out of her office. Wait, did she even give the Pinketta time and place for her training? Or were her parents informed of this idea by Naru for that matter? She'll send Shizen to do both those things. Fugaka sighs as he heads towards yet another meeting called together by the clan elders. The old cadres more likely than not will try to push for him to try and get the entire Uchiha clan behind the idea of staging a coup. Sure, he can understand how even with Minato doing his best to include one of the founding clans with village politics, some of them are disgruntled. Ever since the day of the Kyuubi attack 9 years ago, rumors and stories have done their rounds about how the Uchiha were responsible for the Kyuubi rampaging all over Konoha. Sighing rather despondently, Fugaka sets his face into the same neutral expression every Uchiha clan head has worn before him and enters the conference room, only to stop in the door opening as he can see Minato and Naru lounge at his seat, a rather embarrassed Itachi being held in place by Shursui. Minato, I assume you're not here on formal business? The Uchiha patriarch asks his old friend while his daughter and his own cousin are snickering about something. Well, it's not really official yet, but I came here asking you something that could easily shape the future of our village. Minato replies, a strange glint in his eyes. The elders couldn't help but sweat nervously. Was the Yondaime on to their attempts to start a coup? Was he here to purge those who conspired against him? I'm thinking of making Itachi my successor, unless there is a reason that I shouldn't do that. I'm asking you because you're his father and know him much better than I do. Oh, and don't worry, I already asked Mikoto as well, Minato says with a grin. Fugaka couldn't help but gape at his son while he slowly processes the words that were said by their leader. Uchiha Itachi, his prodigy son, will become the very first Uchiha Hokage, even though it is still quite a few years away. There was only one response that the dignified leader of this noble clan could give. This calls for a partardeie, and thus the Uchiha clan party for 3 days and nights. Who knew they had it in them? Good morning, Naru-san. Shino greeted his first friend as he walked behind her, both he and his hive ready to get the hell out of Dodge. And it seemed to be a wise move, as Naru yelped and turned around, chains sprouting out of her back and flying towards the Aburame air. Shino of course dodged the haphazardly launched projectiles with ease, but both kids stare rather intrigued at the adamantine chains that Naru created. Huh, those are new. So, what's gotten you more excited as usual? Naru asks Shino casually as she's eating lunch while sitting on the underside of a tree branch. She doesn't care for the stares of the others around her that aren't used to her training methods. Sasuke sits next to her on the branch like a regular person while Shino and Hinata are seated against the trunk of the tree. Hinata and Sasuke can't help but raise their eyebrows at that statement. Doesn't Shino look the same as he always does, having almost everything but his forehead covered? Quite an astute observation, Naru-san. I am indeed quite excited. Why? I get to become the first host of a new breed of Kikeichu. It is quite an important event in the Aburame clan, Shino says in usual bland tone. Still, that doesn't deter the blonde of the group. Oh, sounds like a party in the making. You mind if I come too? Though nobody could see it, underneath his collar and sunglasses Shino was for the very first time in his life pleasantly surprised, his face soon morphing into an unseen smile. Of course, I'd be glad to host you if my parents agree, that is. Needless to say, the day of the event the reincarnated blonde endeared herself to the clan thanks to her honest and open curiosity. Sitting on top of the roof in the middle of the night with some hot tea, Naru couldn't help but look up at the moon, the lunar body having been a prison for her Kachan for so long. Strange that the day she was born also heralded Kagaya's freedom. Kachan, could you tell me a story? Naru asks her mother figure. Ufufu, of course, Naru-chan. This one happened around 400 years ago, when the Uzumaki clan had only recently founded Yazushio. Taking the opportunity to teach her daughter about her clan's history a bit more, Kagaya weaves an unbelievingly crazy story that would only happen to an Uzumaki, the increasingly mad turns of events lulling the little girl into the most fantastical dreams. Sweet dreams, my little sunshine. Kagaya thinks fondly as Naru finally falls asleep. I'm telling you, Sasuke, this is suspicious as fuck. Naru growled at her annoyed Uchiha companion. The reason for their current argument? Naru saw something strange from the corner from her eye and immediately launched herself towards it using Shunshin, which she partly mastered. It's the part where you're stopping without your momentum carrying you forward that she has trouble with. Still, that just means she pretty much catapulted herself headfirst into the stomach of a chunin who was apparently taking notes on them. Which pretty much was the starting point of their hushed argument. Even if it is, we should report this to Iruka-sensei instead of immediately dragging the bastard to your psychopath of a sensei. Sasuke counters, honestly not wanting to subject anyone to the woman who mentally scarred him during their first meeting. The same Iruka-sensei that let us walk back to the classroom alone after we finished our spar? The one that pitted us against each in alphabetical order instead of skill? The same Iruka-sensei that tried to brush us off with the excuse that he had to clean up before heading back to the class? Naru whispers shouted every suspicious thing their teacher did today. Granted, it's not his usual behavior, but still you do have a habit of making a huge mess. Sasuke counters, we fight in a goddamn dirt circle, what is there to clean up? And even if he did have to clean it up, then why hasn't he caught up to us yet? Even better yet, where the hell is Ino? Having nothing to counter those remarks with, Sasuke racks his brain in order to find something that would give him even the slightest chance of stopping his rival. Sadly, he couldn't find one and helped Naru secure the stranger in chunin clothes with cuffs that Naru got from the TNI before picking up the man's legs. Alright then, you lunatic, how are we gonna do this? He asked in a gruff tone, still wondering just why the hell he was humoring her. Maybe that weird dream of last night did have something to do with it. Easy, there's a sewer grate nearby that we use to gain access to the tunnels. We get down there, go to the TNI while avoiding that one place that is heavily trapped and guarded by people with blank masks. When the dude wakes up, we'll just knock him out again while the chakra suppression seals on the cuffs do the rest. Once we've dropped the bastard of, we're gonna search for Ino and check on the others. Naru explains while leading the way, carrying the man by his armpits. How the hell do you know your way around the sewers? I like to explore all kinds of places. And you won't believe just how fast you get around when using those sewer tunnels. While the two kids keep their bickering near silent while dumping the body first through the manhole, they don't notice Shursui holding back a snicker as he writes stuff down on a notepad. Sure, it was an exercise to see how the kids would treat orders out of the norm and gauge how responsible they were when left alone. Sure, they were only 9, but holy hell, aren't they a bunch of little sheeple? Well, besides the crazy blonde that once again managed to turn what would surely be a boring yearly hidden test into a fucking amazing spectacle. Well, I was tasked with observing the kiddies that were on their way. And what kind of A and B would I be if I were to slack off? And so, the tale of 2 academy kids knocking out a chunin and somehow managing to drag his ass to the other side of the village without being seen became something of a folktale in the land of fire. Dad, why are there multiple yous doing the paperwork? Shouldn't Itachi be the one doing it instead? Naru can't help but ask curiously as she enters her father's office by herself for once. Normally there's always one of her friends accompanying her when she strikes out, but it seems they're all busy with something else at the moment. Minato, the real one that is, looks up from his position on the couch where he was relaxing and reading a book. Oh, Itachi got the day off so he could spend it with Sasuke and Mikoto. As for your other question, those are Kagebunshin. It's a B-rank genjutsu that allows you to make solid clones that transfer their memories to you when they pop. The reason they're forbidden is because it costs a lot of chakra to make them, even though they can help speed up your training by a lot. He explains with a smile to his eldest daughter, whose gaze grows more and more awe-filled with every word the yondaime says. It's only when she suddenly appears right in front of him with teary puppy eyes Minato finally realizes he may have done goofed. Still, seeing as his daughter is an Uzumaki, her reserves will probably be way too big for her to create the regular clones that are needed to graduate. And what will we tell Kushina? He asked amused. Time spent training with his little sunshine does sound more appealing than staying here, even though the chance that she can use the skill as a cheat to train her skills to their max level much faster. How about I brought the paperwork I get as guild master to you so you could teach me how to properly maintain a budget and such? That actually sounds like something that you need to learn sooner or later. Yash, once you get the Kagebunshin technique mastered at an acceptable level, we'll start with the paperwork. Minato exclaims in a far too happy tone. And even though Naru is complaining right now, he knows that she'll diligently follow the lessons. As much of a tomboy and roaming maverick she may seem to be, she's also one hell of a student once properly motivated. It's just a matter of keeping her interested in what is being taught. Mizuki glanced at the Inuzuka boy getting his ass kicked again by the Hokage's favorite daughter, and shrugs before turning around and heading inside to grade homework. It ain't his problem that the kid lacks good survival instincts. So what you're saying is that if we accept that I can get resources to practice making my own weapons while training my shinobi skills and such? Tenten asks with a narrowed gaze at the very weird rectangle hovering in front of her, the blonde responsible for said strange thing standing a bit behind it. Yup, I'm also saving up for a plot of land where we can build our very own guild hall with all the necessary facilities for both living and training there. The red-eyed girl explains with a grin as she casually tosses a kunai up and down. She's been running into both Tenten and Rock Lee both inside the academy and outside of it, and got cordial enough with the both of them that she extended the invitation to join her guild. Lee, bless his straightforward, taijutsu-loving heart, accepted immediately with a huge smile while shouting about the flames of youth. You should put it in a bit more carefully. Sasuke commented with a smirk, crouching right next to Naru while she is picking the lock on her chest. The thieving blonde just lets out a soft sigh as she focuses on the job at hand. I know, team. She softly growls out as she tries to find the sweet spot of the padlock. You should twist it a bit more to the left. The Uchiha speaks up again, obviously enjoying the fact he can so easily rile up the Kage kid. Maybe I should grab your dick and twist that off. Satisfied with the silence, Naru gets back to the task at hand, grinning when a minute later she finally gets it open. Opening the chest, she quickly pockets the mission item while teleporting the rest of the loot into the shared inventory of the party. That way they can easily divide it all later. Truly, the only thing left is sneaking back out and then they're done. Easy as pie for them seeing as they already have an escape route planned. Took you long enough. Sasuke commented rather haughtily in an Uchiha-like way. Oh my god, Sasuke, I swear to the goddess that if you don't shut up right now I'll fuck you up and leave you for dead while burning this place to the ground. Naru screams at Sasuke while the smug bastard merely weathers the storm with that arrogant little smile of his. Because not even a second after Naru finished shouting, the alarms went off. You planned this, didn't you, asshole? Morning, Yasha. Mito greets her sister neutrally, only the two of them either awake or in the house at the moment. Naru stiffens for a moment before turning around and facing her red-headed sister. You're not Azura or Indra, so how do you know that name? She asks in a rather forced casual tone, her rapier ready to be summoned at a moment's notice. Mito just swallows nervously before opening her mouth slowly. Henry just wondered how much you remember. She stammers out, trying to wrap her head around the half of the QB, who happens to be a gorgeous woman by the by, actually told her the truth. Was everything else that she said then true as well? Right now I remember up to my 3rd year of secret training. I think we are. Tabine-chan and Shu and I have just convinced Chome to help them out as well. So, how is Henry doing actually? Naru asks excitedly, happy for any news she can get on one of her old siblings. Mito for her part just relaxes a bit while trying to come to terms with it all. She's doing fine, happy that she's in control of her own body and actions but devastated as to how it came to be. She carries over her tenant's message before collapsing in a chair and giggling hysterically. So it's true what she said, you really are the sage's daughter. Mito somehow manages to say coherently between fits of manic laughing fits. Nah, it's just that I used to be Yasha and remember it piece by piece. I'm still your sister, I just get to relive my past life in my dreams. Goddess, that doesn't make it any less complicated, does it? Naru says with a rueful chuckle as she puts a cup of steaming tea in front of her sister. Mito doesn't respond, but closes her eyes as if meditating. Naru doesn't disturb what is most likely two of her sisters conversing with each other, and silently heads to the backyard to meditate. Hey Naru, thanks for telling me the truth, and reincarnated chick from the ages past or not, you're still family. For her part, Naru just smiles before turning around. Thanks, Mito. If you want I can tell you more about that time later if you want. Mito just nods as her usual cocky grin returns. Sure, I'd love to know if Henry is justified in calling the Rakuta Sennin a misogynistic piece of hypocritical shit. Today was the day. Today Inuzuka Kiba would follow the crazy bitch that kept fucking him up and denying him his place as the proper alpha of the class. He'd beat her up and then he'd climb up to the very top of the class. Who cares that his sister and mother still kick his ass with ease, along with most adult and teen females in the clan? Okay, so maybe they might have a point as to why he should keep his bravado on a tighter leash. But how the hell should he otherwise show that he's the alpha if everyone keeps insisting on working against him? Finally arriving at the training ground where his archrival would be training with her sensei, Kiba couldn't help but stop and gape at the scene in front of him, Akamaru whining worriedly as well. Seemingly dancing on the surface of the pond in this training ground, Naru seems unusually focused as she is dodging 3 giant snakes at once, the things hellbent on dragging them under while the girl has to avoid them wearing 4-inch heels. Still, the grace and fluidness of her movements easily hint to this being a usual thing for the hardworking Kage kid. Edging back to the edge of the training ground, Kiba turns around and heads back home, his view of the world severely shaken by this turn of events. That and the blasts of pure chakra that are being flung around could easily hit him if he stayed in one place for too long. Goddammit, how did we lose that fucking cat? An irate Genin yelled to his team while their teacher watched from a distance. While the newly minted ninjas start blaming each other, none of them bother to even entertain the notion of the cat being in the sewers right now through the nearby grate. Meanwhile in the sewers, Naru holds the cat in a relaxed grip while walking through the tunnels, scratching the poor thing behind his ears. Jesus, what kind of shitty owner makes you want to run for your life over and over? It must be really bad if a smart guy like you keeps trying. Naru says to Tora, the feline enjoying the short time of peace as for once a young one understands his plight in this godforsaken village. Why do they not realize he'd rather be free or dead instead of being stuck with that fat female-looking thing that keeps choking him? You know, the Inuzuka somehow managed to teach their Niken how to use chakra. Wanna see if I can help you do the same, Tora? Naru asks with a malevolent grin, already enjoying the chaos and mayhem that would surely follow this decision. It didn't help that Tora's smile matched that of his new favorite human. If he could manage to harness chakra with the help of this tiny blonde, then he'd owe her a debt that would maybe never be able to get repaid. Oh, with a bit of luck you'd be able to spit fireballs as well. Just imagine the look on the faces of your chasers. That's it, one of his future kittens will most definitely be named after this beautiful angel of chaos. Sasuke, Hinata and Shino already went ahead of Neru, as Iruka kept her behind for something she may or may not have done during the class. Dad was right, Kage Bunshin were totally baller. Finally outside, she was about to head to her friends but something stopped her. Sasuke and Hinata were laughing about something, their shoulders touching as they were sharing some kind of inside joke. Feeling some kind of anger bubbling up in her stomach, Neru heads back inside with her jaw clenched as tight as her fists. For some reason, she really just wants to be alone right now. Neru sighs as she once again is alone on one of the training grounds, her friends all doing clan-related business and Enigo busy with some spies they captured yesterday. Wondering what she should do, our little protag turns around and watches the tree lean. Sure enough, a moment later Kiba walks through it with a rather sheepish look. Akamaru doesn't really care about the awkward atmosphere and trots towards the sole female around before lying down next to her. The awkward silence stretches on for a few minutes until Kiba finally opens his mouth, only to be interrupted by a giant flashing orb appearing and dropping off two very familiar-looking people. Damn it, Neru, I thought you said you double-checked the ceiling matrix? A rather rough voice snarls at his companion, though both kids can hear that there isn't any actual malice. When both Kiba and Neru's sight return to them, they can actually see the two strangers that just so happen to look a lot like them. Of course, it's our fearless little protag who interrupts the bickering that was sure to start. Why is future me's hair white, and where do the fucking cat ears and tail come from? The soon-to-be 12-year-old girl blurts out. Just as she said, there was another, older Neru standing in the middle of the blast zone, the young woman looking almost the same, yet so much different. The white-haired Kagero version of Neru has a rather lithe body clad in a red corset and tight leather pants that seem to be painted on her long legs. A sleeveless trench coat, complete with a tailhole, hangs snugly from her shoulders while her forearms are clad in metal gauntlets that reach all the way to her elbow. Boots seemingly made from the same metal also reach until just below her knees. And as her younger version pointed out, for some reason the now white-haired girl has indeed turned into a Kagero. Oh, those? Don't worry about them. The future me who told me what I needed to hear didn't have them, so if you don't like it you can avoid them. Now then, let me bestow upon thee the core rules that are the pillars of Uzumaki Fuinjutsu. The older and no less crazy Uzumaki drags her complaining past self to the other side of the training ground, only looking back to wink at her companion. Kiba looked up at the older version of himself, and could only think of one thing. Damn, I totally rock that soul patch. Indeed, with his hair slicked back and the fuzzy little bit of hair growing on his chin, Kiba indeed did look more mature and intimidating. Future Kiba merely looked down with a roguish grin to his past self, remembering this moment very well. Well, time to help his past self out just like his future self did for him. You don't have to try so hard, you know, he says calmly, shocking the young Inuzuka with his words. Seriously, you don't have to focus on being the alpha of the group so much. You're still young, so it's okay to just go through life and enjoy the peaceful days. Besides, if you really want to compete with Neru, you'd have to top the same crazy shit she gets into. And that means getting something more awesome than a compact ceiling array that allows you to summon meteors. Future Kiba explains with a grin, ignoring the friggin' meteor part. Why the hell don't I have to try? I mean, how can I prove I'm a good next clan head when goddammit? The younger Inuzuka's rant is cut off by a flick to his forehead, his elder self just grinning. What? And you think picking fights you can't win is a good way to show that you're ready for leadership? Look kid, it's really simple. Either you keep doing what you're doing and end up completely alone and obsessed with winning a battle that you can't ever emerge victorious from. Or you just take a few steps back, get to know the craziest fucking girl this village has ever brought forth, and watch as everything falls in place. Hell, it's only thanks to the insanity that I always put up with when Neru's around that I met my fiancée. And let me tell you, she's worth all of it. He says with a happy smile, one that Kiba can remember seeing on his mother's face when his father was still around. Wanting to ask more, it seems that it wasn't meant to be as his future self slowly starts fading away. Well, looks like we're out of time. Remember to take it easy and enjoy life, pup, or you'll end up regretting it, was the last thing Inuzuka Kiba heard of his time-traveling future self before he disappeared. Staring at the spot for a few minutes, he is once again shaken out of his stupor by someone flicking him in the forehead. You okay there, dude? Neru asks with a grin. Kiba wants to growl and shout but can't find the energy for it, the strange encounter having drained him both physically and mentally. Yeah, future me just gave me a fuckton to think about, he admits while letting himself fall to the ground. Neru just nods excitedly. I know, right, I got like a lot of new schematics for weapons and ideas for techniques to try out. That and a book containing all the basic rules an Uzumaki should follow in case ceiling arrays go foobar. Hell, my future self is going to manage to? Anyways, we can fuse our wind and water affinity together in order to recreate the Hayatan Jutsus. She rambles excitedly before taking a proper look at Kiba's tired face. Oh, he gave you a talk that made you re-examine your whole